never tied. So that's 2 days, 3 days right there, so guess where that comes from? Now you're behind on blading again. We have to pull a guy to go gravel it, well, now he's not in his route. We try to spread it out, sometimes some guys are better at doing things than others, so you tend to lean towards them a little bit. So, I mean, I don't wanna throw names out, I believe that everyone out in that road department's a valuable team member. But some of them, we pull a little bit more to do the culverts and this stuff and fix on stuff, so some of their routes get neglected a little bit, and I apologize for it, but then if I don't do that, then the people up there are yelling because this is bad and that's bad. I mean, we had to pull culverts, we had to do culverts on Old 83 because the storm washed them out. Well, we had to fix it, and now that culvert from the blade operator in that area said, hey, I haven't seen that area dry in a long time. Well, that's because we went and fixed it, but I mean, everything takes time and everything takes manpower. I don't believe that we are slacking in any department. Could we do better? Probably yes. I mean, there's always a little bit better we can do. If you're not trying to better yourself every day, then you might as well.
Or do we need to bring in more people? I mean, do you need more part-time help, or do you need more contractors? You know, you're the one that's got to come up with the answers.
Right, well, with the more, I've had an ad out, I think we've kept running that ad for more summer help, we're not getting any. I got another one that I'm gonna interview after the 4th of July, after this long weekend, but he's just, I wanna work a couple days a week here and there. Well, it's really kind of sometimes tough to schedule around that, right? So you have we're gonna move gravel, well then, tomorrow I'm not gonna have that guy, so now I gotta either find a guy for that truck, or go down to one truck doing this, and you can't do that because you don't get anywhere, right? You wanna bring in more contractors, yes, we can bring in more contractors, but as Commissioner Magrum said, that is at the end, June, July, August, that's where you guys decide what we can do. That's the plan of action. Like, you give me so much money to spend and I try to spend it where it's best needed. Sometimes it might get spent where someone else didn't think it needs to be spent, right?
Can I say something, Skyler, nothing against your management side of it, but when, no rain west of Lytton, 3.5 inches just north of town here or east, wherever, I had 1.20 inch. Why can't we pull these blades that are idle from that 3.5 inch area down to these areas and put 3-4 blades in an area and get it up to shape? And if we have to move gravel in them spots, and you as the soup spot, those spots would need to be gravelled, and get it done, and if we get 3 inches down here and they get 0, those blades move and the shop isn't sitting idle with manpower sitting and looking out the window.
So,
And that's the way I feel it should be done for the better of the overall county.
That's kind of how I feel the same way. And then it's like that Hague area down there last year, they didn't get anything. Well, when you're done up here with these guys, bring 3 or 4 blades down and get that whole area done, but it just never got done that way.
What do you do as a farmer when it's raining? And you get 2 inches on a quarter of land and you know you can't spray? You're gonna drive in the pickup, or you're gonna make phone calls where maybe they didn't get rain down here in my other 3 quarters. I'm going south to spray.
And then I hear something, well, that's not my route, I'm not going down there. Well, their route is where you tell them to go. That's their route.
That's their
I
right.
haven't heard anybody say that.
Well, that's what
I mean, if anybody, I've heard, and I'm not trying to throw David Crum, like David Crum doesn't wanna go really blade anywhere but other down than
He
that,
likes this
so.
area too down there.
Right, so if I need him up north and he's not willing to come up there, then what do?
Yeah.
Fire
You
him?
tell him, you give him orders, and if he doesn't take it, yeah.
And fire him, and
Yeah.
then have the lynch mob after me because I fired him.
You know, it's just,
I mean, you guys gotta understand where I'm at in this situation. It's not a win-win, like something else has to suffer.
you gotta understand our decision too, though.
Right, I understand that, but also in your aspect of moving everything over there, down there, it's a logistics endpoint, like, now you're into an hour and a half to go up and get a loader, even if you rode it, or you go up there with a lowboy to get it down to the next gravel pit there, so, I mean, those trucks are waiting for that. And then next week, or by noon, it's dry enough to do something up there, so then, I mean,
I just think that a guy's gotta focus on these certain areas when it's dry and fit, to just wrestle it and go for it and get it done. And boom, we're going up north and we're gonna get this area done and shaped.
right, so all
It's
the
kind
guys
of
are.
like, pardon?
So the guys
That's
are
my
blading,
opinion.
the guys are blading out down south today, right? There's 2 guys up there dealing with water problems from roads flooding, and we're starting to shut down a few roads because they have water across them. Like the text message sent this morning, the culvert's up and running, it's just gonna take time for it to go under.
Right, that one on 11th Avenue.
Right, the one on 11th Avenue, that was south of 34, north of 34, there's two low spots, and then the culverts are running, it just can't take it, so there's water over the road, so we've closed them down for the time being, but by 2 o'clock they'll probably be open. Right, so
All the gravel's washed off.
all the gravel's probably washed off. I got a phone call from a lady this morning saying, hey, come take a look at my road, I need gravel. I mean, and that was up north here, down south needs gravel, it's a budget, it's a money and manpower issue.
And I'm not blaming you for anything, Scott. We always got along, I've always treated you respectful and stuff, but these people are breathing down our back. These people are.
Then don't cut any money out of the budget this year and see how well that they still like you. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be just blunted, but that's speak the truth too. Don't cut any money out of my budget this year and see what we can do with it. But you're not gonna be able to because the budget's pretty extravagant, because we've got plans on there. There's roads that need to be redone, like the asphalt roads that we've pushed off for years, and now we really have to make the decision of whether we're gonna spend that money or we're gonna turn them back to gravel, which is gonna cost money, what? So if that's where Commissioner Magrum was 100% correct. That's where you make your plan, is in the budget.
Well, I think we gotta look at where we can get extra money from. Yeah.
Fat's gotta be trimmed. Right?
Right,
That's
right, so, but where do we cut that fat? Like, I present my budget to you, and then you guys cut the fat, and then give me what's left over to use that money. Before we even got that plan in place for the gravel that obviously was a lot more than everybody was expecting, I said we don't really have money for gravel this year. But yet, we still wanna put gravel places. So,
Well, for the sake of time, because we're well past noon here, so I mean, is there anything else pressing? I suppose you actually have quite a few things, because we haven't really talked to you about anything.
no, I mean, that's the updates, just 17th Avenue, we're gonna start reshaping and rebuilding Cattail Road, the first 2 miles out, which is I mean, everybody knows here on this board that one we've talked about, we're gonna start rebuilding it.
the one east and west out to the highway. What are you gonna do? Go in with 2 scrapers and pull the rest?
No, we're gonna just pull them up and try to pack them, we don't own a sheep's foot.
And that's gonna work.
But it's worked in the past, and we've rebuilt some roads like that in the past. The 8th Avenue was all done with motor graders and stuff like that, so. I mean, we've got some transmission issues, we probably will have to bring a scraper out there, so. We'll see how the project progresses, so. But that's one of our big main focuses is Cattail Road for the next couple weeks to try to do those 2 miles, and then we're gonna have to put gravel on all that, so.
So what's our plan gonna be for the rest of the county?
Find me money to hire contractors and I will start graveling roads. Or give me more money to hire more help. Like that is, I don't know how much more cut and dry I can make it.
Well, we got some guy that would work, but now we don't wanna pay him, so what do we do there?
Find the money somewhere. That, I can't go shake a tree and
So what are we gonna do with Crump out there? The rest of you guys? I know he'll quit. 26, then we got nothing again.
Or do you have a suggestion?
I suggest that we find the money to pay him 32 to 35 bucks.
And since he got hired as a seasonal with the other guys, if they ask that much, are we gonna?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, the other seasonal guys, I mean,
But it just depends on experience, you know how much experience.
yeah, well, Terry Adler's been here a long time though, I mean.
And he just made the remark, if I told him I wanna pull him up north, he won't do it.
Well, he probably will, it's not that
He
he's.
probably will, but what
I
it's
mean, he would
gotta
like to
say.
make, he would
I would
like
like to stay in the ag road.
His area.
You would like to stay in that hay route, get those people satisfied down there, and I thought that was
No,
a
I'm
Well,
just
I'll tell you,
I'm just
he's
saying,
the
you know,
boss.
some of the other part-time guys have just as much
big.
experience,
Well,
so.
who's got, okay, but who does have as much experience?
What's here, I know it's been here a long time
Yeah, but
too.
he's not a blade operator.
JT Moose was bladed for years.
Yeah, but is
He's
he
a blade operator.
They're all experienced.
Well, I think, like I said, it's gotta be a level of consistency, that if you hire 3 guys for the same position, you should probably pay them the same. Now, if you're gonna hire a seasonal blade guy versus a seasonal truck driver, then you can probably have a difference in pay grade if you want or something. I mean, we just hired 3 guys, we're taking as many guys as we can interview, I mean, we just were looking for help, so. I mean, if you wanna, you know, increase pay or do something like that, I mean, you can make those decisions, it's fine. I mean, that's where the board, I mean, we hold the purse strings, that's, I mean, Skylar's basically telling you, you tell them to
Do something.
pay David 35 an hour, I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it, if that's what you're gonna do.
Little Ridge
Oh,
Valley.
hang on, go ahead, Sharon.
Okay, I just got it, just coming from someone who's had to hire a lot of people. Generally, if you're hiring someone and they don't think the pay is enough, they usually negotiate that before they accept employment. And I don't know the situation, this is just my experience, so as a taxpayer, I would think that those kind of hiring practices would happen here in the county as well. You offer a job at a pay, and if they accept it, that's fine. And if you have a pay plan that maybe down the road, if your performance is good or whatever, we will pay more. Or if the guy says, I'm not gonna come unless you pay me 35, well then you decide at that time, do we need to pay this guy $35 an hour because we're short? And that's, you know, it's supply and demand. So I just have a hard time seeing it happen after the fact that the person's accepted employment.
Well,
But
that's kinda-
that's just my.
That's kinda how it started out right away. I mean, he
Yeah.
accepted 32 is what he.
Why, no, we never formally made an offer at 32, that was just what maybe we could make work, and then we got kickback and everything like that, so like, he didn't get offered anything officially till we interviewed him and went through it. At the same time, JT come and said, hey, I'll come do some work for you, some summer help, so that it's like, okay, you got a bucket of money, right? There's nobody's help, or nobody's coming in to apply, and you're into June or whatever, so you're like, okay, I could probably take a little bit more out of this, you know? Well, now you got 2 other guys that come out of there, and now you gotta pull that money, so it's gotta shrink, right? Everybody wants their fair shake. So, I mean, this is,
Well, I can tell you this.
and you're gonna set a precedent, if you do this now, you're gonna set one for the next
That's right.
season, or the next season after that, and the season after that. Like, as the road department, I really wish we could pay everybody more, but as the road department stands, I have to stand firm with
Okay, so
my
you guys
decision.
don't wanna do it then?
I didn't say that, I just said, this is the first time I heard what he was making.
If you guys decide to do
26.
different, I will
And he
follow
said he would
suit.
like to make 32 to 35 bucks an hour. He's not gonna stay. I said, hang on, stay, oh, see once what we can do. So I'm bringing it up now. If you don't want it, he's gonna quit, we're gonna lose him down there. People down there are gonna be upset, so you guys are gonna deal with them. And, that's just the way it is.
I guess, I mean, my big thing is, I'm just kinda confused, so if that was the offer and he accepted the job, then was the plan for the whole time to accept the job and then to strong arm us for more
Yeah.
money, or, cause
Us too.
my confusion
That's
is
the way
this,
it's directed
the way
for
this
itself.
government should operate.
Yeah,
I mean, if you offer 26 and somebody takes it, and then it's like, hey, would you come back next year? And it's like, you know, I would, but I really think you should pay more. Like, you guys should be in the 30s. Well, you know, there's a budgetary process like now where we go through and we go, okay, we would like to have 2 to 4 guys, and we would like to average $30 an hour. And then you maybe could have you could have truck drivers at 26 or 27, and if you do get more qualified guys, you can pay them a little more. I think it's bad precedent when we've gone through all our process of the steps, trying to rank every employee in this government, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's like, well, we get this guy, and we wanna pay him more, but he's better than these guys, which is a kind of an obscure decision with a lot of that. Like, we hired 3 seasonal guys at this, kind of the same position, we offered them the same amount of money, they all 3 accepted. I feel like, you know, no different than if I bid a job, and I put that bid out there and they accept it and I accept it, is they're gonna come back later, unless something really changed significantly, something that was not agreed upon. You kinda have to honor that agreement, at least in the short term. I mean, we're in July, we're gonna be talking what, maybe 3 more months if the weather holds out, David's really gonna be, maybe before, if it's like last year, where we're going into Thanksgiving with decent weather.
Well,
And
you
I
know,
don't feel like it going a couple months on this agreement with the idea that, hey, if this really works out, and this is a good program, maybe, you know, we obviously budget more for it. Maybe it's not a good plan to bring 3 guys in that all 3 used to work here, and they only wanna work one couple days here, they only wanna work certain routes, and maybe that's not a good plan, and to go through and just submarine the whole plan just because 1 or 2 differences, I think we learn as we go along, and if we wanna improve it for next summer, then I think that's a conversation that we have. I don't feel like you bring guys on and all of a sudden it's like, well, we want this and we want that, I mean, it's just not fair, and now you got a full-time crew out there that's like, geez, you're treating summer guys better than you treat us, and now you have this disruption, and that's not, it's not how you employ people, it's just not. I've employed people, I've been a part of different organizations, I mean, at the coal mine, you didn't get your pay raise and then in 3 months go, I'm doing way more, I want, that's not how the process worked, there was a time of year.
I don't think it never was like that. I mean, he was asking for 32 right away, right? I mean, he kinda asked you, that's what David told me anyway. He wanted $32 an hour, and $32 an hour, and then finally, I don't know, whenever he didn't decide, then David came to me and said, well, they offered 26, I guess for now I'm gonna take it, but I don't probably gonna take it very long, because it's just.
But then why?
Then why did he
agree
accept
to
it?
I don't know, because people are after him.
So why are we being the lynch? Him-
Yeah, we had nothing
by his
to
brother?
do with him getting 26, we had nothing to do with it,
I
so
never
why
said
are
you
you
did.
throwing it at us?
I'm not throwing it,
Yeah, I know,
I'm saying to you
but
guys now,
it's-
do you guys think they should pay him more to keep him here?
No.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, I think it's bad precedent for
Bad
right now, I
precedent.
think if you wanna look at it and go, you know what, David would love to come back next year, and it really worked out good, and he got the road shaped up the way he said he was gonna, people are happy. This is a good plan, let's go down and let's look for 30 or 32 or something, and you come with that, and
I
then,
agree.
and then you go to and you discuss the other guys, you go, hey, we're not gonna pay all of you 35 unless you all jump in a blade, well, some of them don't wanna bring it, but you know, maybe Terry only wants to drive truck, okay, well, then you pay him 26 to 28 or whatever is a market-ish fair value to get a guy employed there. You can't hire 3 guys, cause what happens now if you ask 1 or 2 of the employees to go out and shovel around the culvert or start doing some tougher jobs, but this guy's in a blade, well, how come he doesn't have to do the crappy job and I have to, like,
Well, exactly.
you can't just go, oh, we need everybody we can, and then once we get him here, then we start shuffling around how we're gonna treat him, that's just not the proper way to do things, and that's,
Do you think it's good, Scott? No.
No, I mean, like I said, I stand at my decision at 26, if you guys decide to pay him more, then we will pay him more.
I think he accepted the job at 26, that's what we're offering to try and get this done through the summer, we're in a very short window, let's just get the job done. Honestly, if he's true to his word and he wants to participate in this government, in this county like we want him to, it shouldn't be a problem for him to stick around through the summer, and with the idea of going, hey, this is a good plan, it's working, and then we go forward, you know, down the line, and you're looking like, yeah, we really wanna keep, that's how it works, like Sharon said. You discuss a wage, and then as someone's showing value, and then you try and reward them, compensate them, which is why they call it compensation, to the value of their contribution. You don't just go 2 or 3 weeks into it and go, well, now he's gonna quit if we don't give him this. Well, that makes it look like anybody that walks in here and says, I'm gonna quit, now we either have to deal with, we're getting blackmailed out of your position, it's just not, it's not real,
It's
for
not
him to
real.
accept the position a couple of weeks ago, and now we're discussing wages and he's gonna quit. All it does is show me that when he quit before, it's the same situation, we want someone around that's just gonna quit as soon as anything gets tough, it's not fair. I think he should stick to his agreement if that's what he agreed to, and if the plan works. I mean, we are already discussing budget, so we're in the discussion, now's the time. Let's budget some money for the opportunity that we're gonna bring 2 to 4 guys in again. If you wanna raise the wages, that's fine, and let's go from there. I don't think we wanna set precedent of just everybody that comes in and asks for more money gets it or leaves, that's just not, I don't wanna participate in that kind of, I don't care who's asking, it's just not what I wanna do, and I don't think it's consistent, and it isn't something the taxpayers are gonna respect, that, oh, why don't you just go in and tell the commissioners you're gonna quit, okay, well, that's not an atmosphere I want either, so. It's nothing against David, it'd be the same thing if JT or any of them, they agreed to the job, take the pay. And if you don't like it, quit, and if you realize that it's an opportunity that could grow, like Francis said, for years, David could be a summer blade guy for years, then doing it for a couple months to prove that this process works is not a bad idea. That's all I have to say about it. Which is more than enough, so I'm, like I said, I took over again, I'm sorry, so, it's 12:30. if we wanna continue this, but we should probably take some kind of a break, otherwise it's gonna be a long dang day, so.
Let's go at lunch.
What's going on here? Do you have more stuff to bring up, Skylar? Like, do you wanna continue after lunch, or do you got anything crucial?
Not enough, no, just the budgets, do you guys want me to go? over?
Well, we're gonna go over departmental budget, so you can participate that one, I mean, with, after lunch there, we'll probably end up sneaking some of these few things up first, since they're a lot quicker, and then we'll just chew on departmental budgets till the end of the day, I think that's the proper way to do it, so. If that's the case, you're more than welcome to come in when your time is up for the budget. Unless anybody else has anything else, I think we should take a break and come back in here, it's 12:30 now, I'd say let's just, come back at 1:30. Is that fine, or anybody got any other issue with that?
Alright.
Okay, and we'll recess till 1:30. Back to order. Move the agenda up a little bit, and skip over to budgets for now. Get some of these other things done first, so. First one will be, Brad Huber with the VA report.
Yes, okay, good afternoon, gentlemen.
It's okay that we skipped you ahead a little bit, right? You prepared, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, fine. Been a pretty, and compared to last month, pretty average, the numbers are pretty much about the same as far
I
as
give you
veteran.
guys all a copy this morning, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I got it here. Good.
As you can see, numbers wise, pretty close to the previous quarter. One thing that's definitely different is for some number of veterans that have come in for a lot more than just one item. And I don't want to make it sound like I don't know how to word this, hope I don't make you feel stupider, but these numbers that I put for veterans is, I'm counting those as individual veterans. So if one veteran A comes in, they come in 3 or 4 times, so if you kind of do the math from compensation and pensions below and add all them up, you'll notice there's a lot more individual different items compared to the number of veterans that come into my office. So I wasn't sure if you were aware of that. I just wanted to make that clear if you're questioning why the number of various, like North Dakota state benefits or medical or insurance, those don't marry up with the number of individual veterans that came into the office. So that's why those numbers don't line up. And again, I just count veterans as they come in, so some of these came in for more than just 1 or 2 situations or items. The only other significant items accomplished this quarter, I completed the CVSO training in Fargo, definitely informative, a lot of information in a 5-day outing. And of course, the quarterly LMS training, and in parentheses is what the course I took. I'm trying to keep it job related, so sometimes that can be a little challenging because I don't really fully know what they mean when I read from what I read the topic says and what the actual training is kind of, so, but I'm trying to keep it more job specific related, so. With that, I guess if there's any questions for me.
Do you find that, veterans have an easy time finding you and things like that, or is that?
I actually this quarter seems like it's been, like I'll have a week where I won't have much, and then I'll have days where it's constant flow. I had one day, I think, it was just one after another till noon.
But you get like any feedback, things we can improve on to try and have more outreach and stuff?
I try to occasionally see if they're interested in, if I do a day in Strasburg or a day in North Dakota Hazelton, I definitely throw the option out there for the older veterans, if they don't wanna travel too, I'm willing to travel there.
Sure.
They seem more willing to come in, but I think the option of me doing that, I definitely, it seems like it appeals to them, and I would be, so there has been a couple occasions where I would prefer I'd go to the veteran as opposed to them come to the courthouse, but, like I said, I'm throwing the options out there for them, and I'm trying to see if time works, the Monday through Wednesday. I haven't really got much feedback on, I'm really kinda hoping to get something when I do ask them, but I think it comes down to if I can provide the service they're hoping for, then I don't think they're really too concerned with time, but again, I also kinda throw out, I'm flexible for their hours or my hours, so, you know, I understand they work, and I'll work my hours around getting the information I need from them, so I can get the paperwork or documentation submitted for them, so, I think that's kinda, it's made some veterans happy, because I've had a occasion where, for some that work in Bismarck, DFC seems to be the perfect meeting point when they get off work, and so.
Okay.
Are there many World War II veterans left in the county?
You know, it's funny you asked that, because I was looking at this and thinking about modifying it. There's a lot involved in modifying some of these forms I may change. The problem is I don't want to get too specific, because it's really borderlining crossing the Privacy Act. Even though it's just a number, it's a little more, and I thought I might look at merging Korean and World War II. We do not have a lot. As a matter of fact, I don't even think we have World War II veterans in Emmons County. So we have World War II veterans like part of our post, but they are both assisted living in Bismarck. So I might merge that, and I might break down from them, like the Persian Gulf and other, make it more specific. Right now, as you can see, Vietnam is the primary. And with them opening up open the eligibility for like the Agent Orange and chemical exposure, it's definitely increased as far as them showing up.
Do they still fight the guys in Vietnam with this Agent Orange deal on claims? That it's not, I hear vets talk, they said they won't pay nothing, they claim it's not Agent Orange, and I was in there when they were deflating.
Well, they've added a lot of presumptives now to where they're opening the opportunities for them to put in claims, because they're starting, more health problems, meaning they're opening the opportunities for them to put in claims. It's really kind of steamrolled since they approved the Blue Water Navy, that kind of opened it up to everyone, and they're also kind of a lot now with the chemical exposure. That's like the Gulf War veteran era, pretty much everyone now for the chemical exposure, but the Agent Orange is big for them. That if they haven't been, they should be. And I've got quite a few claims in process now for Agent Orange.
All right, is there anything else for Brad, or? Brad, you got anything for us?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, well, if that's it, I think we'll move on then.
Alrighty.
All right.
Thank you.
We had all of it,
Thanks,
Brad.
Brad.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Next item on the agenda is the Tierspole or Tressipole Cemetery, so this is,
Yeah, that was big too.
it's the St. Peter and Paul Church kind of adopted it years ago, was kind of the storyline, and then.
It's the old location of Strata.
Right,
Yep.
that was the old St. Peter and Paul Church, and then they moved it into Strasburg, right?
That was the
So which
nun.
one is the one out in the country?
This is the one out in the country there,
By
South
Charlie
of
Keller.
Baumgartner?
No, Charlie Keller's.
Well, north of here.
No, just across the road to
Or
the
just
east.
across the road?
By the gravel pit, the Albert Fudge.
can't see
gravel.
it when there's corn. I mean, it's a small little deal, you know, in the spring you can see it pretty easy, but,
Gary Hager confronted me.
yep, Gary Hager's the one that contacted me too, so.
It's not a very big cemetery then.
What?
It's a what?
It's
Not
bigger, it's bigger than it looks.
How big is it?
The hell is it? What are you telling me?
Well, there's a 5 acre piece
It's
there
5
that
acre
this
piece.
is, it's
Oh,
owned,
there's that much, huh?
Yeah.
it's,
5 acre piece, but it's,
and they're not all that confident that even the area fenced in is the entire cemetery. There's roughly
40 some.
140, 150 people buried in there, and they found that. Kathy found that in the courthouse, the records of those burials. A lot of them were in the 1890s and the early 1900s.
Yep. A lot, not a lot, but they feel there's some graves and there were remains when they were mining that gravel pit
Yeah.
that they found bones.
They truly don't know the actual
really don't
size of
know.
it. Right.
Did you ever meet up with him? Tyler?
I never met him personally, but I've talked to him on the phone and stuff, and I've been out there and looked at it. and
Oh, you,
stuff like that.
okay.
You met with Gary?
I did not personally meet with him, but I talked to him on the phone.
Cause he called me about putting approaches in.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's
that's what
the
the deal is.
topic of the discussion here is that if you see on there, there's kind of a, I don't wanna call it an established trail, but that's basically the easiest spot off the ditch where they drive in
By the
to
gate?
do any mowing, and, they want to put a new fence up, and Dakota Fence said that they gotta have some kind of access off the road, which, I guess to give it any history, it's amazing that that cemetery's actually been there longer than 11th Avenue technically, and why an approach never got put in, you know, all that years ago. It's kinda odd that, you know, they didn't put an approach in, so basically, you know, Mr. Hager, he's kinda taking it upon himself to be kind of the caretaker, but, you know, the church is also kinda supportive of it. They would like to see an approach built, and maybe some gravel, some kind of a trail there basically, so they can get in and out of there.
Yeah, that's what they're.
I told them I would bring it forward to the county because, you know, we do have a fund for abandoned cemeteries. So we do have some funding there, and I'd also be curious if the Emmons County Historical Society would be willing to contribute some funds, you know, I mean, I'm just gonna wing it and approach without a culvert and some gravel there.
Does it need a culvert there? I think it does. even if it's a
Well,
plastic
looking
culvert.
at it, it looks like it's in the low spot of that ditch though, so I don't know if it would be, I mean, I think put a culvert in there, but I don't know if it.
Yeah, I
needs
looked
one.
at it, I don't know if putting a culvert in there, the water's not really gonna go anywhere, cause it can't go
Right.
in that corner and it can't go that way, and I know the approach across the street to their property doesn't have a culvert in it.
Right, the one.
So they
that-
initially thought about going to the north, but it's such a long distance.
Right.
So then Gary and I and Al Gosh talked about it,
Yeah,
putting it in on the west side by this gate.
well,
And
I
probably the
mean,
most.
culvert or no culvert, really, I mean, I would assume it's probably gonna cost a couple $1,000. I mean, that would be kind of my number, for $1,500 to $3,500 probably for the dirt, the labor, the gravel, and what I'm bringing up is, if that's something we just wanna kinda put out for bids, we can kinda earmark some money and put it out for bids, and then see if, you know, does the church wanna pay for some, I don't know, but it is a conversation I feel like should be had once I got out there and met with Gary Hager on it, I mean, it's a pretty important piece of historical value to the county, I mean, there's remains out there, you look at the list of the remains, it's all names we know, I mean, it's,
Who mows it?
Gary got involved in, he mows it.
Oh, okay.
kinda takes care of it, I mean, he admitted to me that he's got relatives buried out there, so that's his personal investment, he mows it and does what he can to take care of it, and he would like to see if the county would offer some assistance and just, you know, whether we built it or if we had some funds, and then like we've talked about, with the road department being as busy as it is, I feel like that's something where if we maybe could put some funds together and just see if somebody local would wanna, I mean, I think you could build it
I
relatively.
think so cheap because the gravel pit's right there.
Well,
And
that
I
would
think
be
the
the only
price
thing
would
is
give
if
us.
if you could have access to that gravel pit right there, and if there's any borrow material right there,
Yeah,
maybe, you know, if a couple people would get together and, you know, rather than relying on the county to go build it, just,
yeah.
you know, and if, you know, or if we provide some funding, are there some church members that will build it? I don't know, but this is just kind of the step one in a several step process of going, you know, are we willing to allocate some funds? I mean, in that budget, there's $3,500 for abandoned cemeteries, we usually do that for some mowing, fencing, weed spraying as they come in, you know.
Did Hager give you a number on the fence?
As far as what the fence was gonna
Yeah.
cost? No, he didn't, cause that was, he basically had invited me out there just to ask if I would bring it forward. I'm trying to get him an approach, and he didn't even actually ask for any gravel, but my comment was, it seems kind of a waste to build an approach and then still drive through a cornfield. I mean, if you're gonna go that far, a little bit further to just go, hey, this is the trail into the cemetery. If you're gonna do that,
Is there any kind of fence around that now?
there is a barbed wire fence, and they wanna do kinda
Chain link.
like a plastic chain link, like all these cemeteries, or you know, that, like a white chain link.
Oh.
They wanna do it so you can still mow under it and stuff, but it's, like, I mean, Hazelton has them, some of them in Braddock, and I mean, that's what they call a cemetery fence. I think it's pretty common in a lot of them areas. It's probably the same height as that top wire,
Okay.
and it droops down, and it's like a, kind of a safety chain link. It's either coated or it's kind of a plastic or
I
something.
don't think that the hay tear, it's a tear when you go into
That's
town.
the deal.
Well, then you can weed eat or even probably get a zero turn right underneath it. You don't have to go around each post thing there. You know, like this one too, I'm sure that grass edge gets thick on the edges and you gotta go around and mow around it, so. They're just.
I don't know, are they asking for a high road or just a trail that's
No,
gravel way it's
he
on,
didn't,
right?
well, to be fair, he didn't, all he asked for was an approach,
Approach.
and that's where I said, if you're gonna go do something, in theory, the least you could do is lay some gravel. I don't think you need to build up a road, but
Just like,
there should be a trail, and it should probably have like some gravel, and at least it's like a 8 foot wide trail with, it's just something, because right now it's just getting farmed through, and then they drive through the field.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't wanna get in the weeds on who should be doing what, where, and why, as far as the field and who's driving the what, but.
Who's farming that land?
Tommy White, I think.
Couldn't, yeah.
Let's do
And I
it.
think they pay, from what Gary thought in Aldosh, that Wagner pays the Feist family, and he said, I don't know if the Feist family pays back to this church deal on them 5 acres, I don't know.
I know that Gary did have a copy of the deed
Yep.
that showed that one of the Feist descendants had
Yep.
basically deeded that property to the St. Peter and Paul Church, and it was like an in perpetuity type, I mean, it was in like the 50s, it's an old deal, but, basically, he was just asking if we would at least help us with funding or build it ourselves, and I kinda said that building it ourselves just doesn't seem like a very good plan, cause obviously we're spread thin, so. I mean, the other thing is if we would, you know, allocate a specific amount of funds and see if somebody would build it for that or close to it.
I think you can get local guys with payloaders that
Right.
are more than willing to step up.
Couple
and
guys
let's
with a
get
skid
gravel
loader and a
on
dump
it.
truck out there could build it in a weekend, I don't think that would be a problem, and that's why I don't feel like including the road department on something like that is a good idea, but if we have,
We need a permit evidently to put the approach in, do we?
yeah.
Well, he filed a permit, and I like, so the whole story is he filed for a permit, and I okayed it, but then he's like, well, the county's gonna build it, and I was like, no, as far as I'm concerned, the county's not going to build that approach, and then in turn, that's where the conversation started, so.
Right.
He's got an approach permit, and I've okayed it,
Okay.
but then,
A 20-foot approach, right, that's what he kinda talked.
right, well, he didn't really mark down the width, I don't believe,
I
but.
think he said, what do you want, a 30 or 40? He said, no, 20's fine. Just so we can get in with a vehicle and back up like Dakota fence.
Yeah.
Back up and working feet out of it.
Yeah, he
Instead of
didn't
be
put
parked on
down
the road.
the width of it, but, I mean, we gotta stay within 40 feet, so if he's gonna stay within that, then
Okay.
that's fine, so.
Okay. Do you have to mark it out where it goes?
No, they pick it, and,
Well, I mean,
Clear
that
line
whole
of sight
stretch there is
and-
pretty flat, there's no, I mean, same with the ditch, like even looking at the ditch, you can see there's really no, that ditch is mainly just to carry moisture off the road, it doesn't really seem to, I mean, obviously if it gets high enough, it goes somewhere, but looking at it where that approach would go, it's probably 50-50 if you even need a culvert. I think it'd be good practice to put one in.
Well, there's not another approach going to the,
Yeah, you could do that dual wall poly, right.
Right.
And you can see the trail, pretty much right where that trail is exactly where they want it, it makes the most sense.
Yep,
You
right to the
know,
gate.
and it's flat for half a mile or better in every direction, I mean, it's very, I mean, the basic decision is gonna be if we wanna allocate some funds to it, which I feel like being a historical site, cemetery, you know, public good kind of thing, we do have.
we should.
I think we should.
I think we have some funding here, I don't know if we should give them the whole thing, but you know, there's $3,500 in there, you put 1,500.
Well, 35, is that every year you get that, or what is it?
We budget for it.
Yeah.
Well,
used
there's
to be a
a,
bill
there's a
that we
few
never
other
did in the
cemeteries that we have to
general
mow, not that.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I don't think we wanna give every nickel to it, but I think we could, just because this thing really hasn't gotten any funding to my knowledge,
Cause I think
give it half or better this year to try and get them an approach and then keep some for, right, there was some
the
out,
Crossing Cemetery, doesn't that have it?
there's a couple that I think
The
some
Crossing?
people.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I don't know who does it. Is it Thomas, is it Webb? I don't know who does it.
Well, we used to pay some of them to do that.
Well, some people turn in a bill and some don't, it's like I said, it's like anything.
Were you asking me now?
Wasn't there some up at Braddock too that we paid, or some that we paid to people to mow them and stuff?
I don't know about that.
Well, we pay a guy to mow the county shop area in Braddock, right?
Right.
The guy that moved
guys
here
do.
from out west where that was.
Yeah.
I met him the other day when I was up there. Yeah.
Cause even like the
He got
Braddock,
chuckling about it,
Braddock's.
I said, "You're the milker." Then he laughed, he said, "Yup."
The Braddock City Cemetery, I'm not sure who's like is taking care of that, but I haven't really seen any bills from that, but, obviously that's maybe ran through the city there or something, but anyway, I mean, I wouldn't see a problem with, at least just starting the conversation with them, saying we have whatever X amount, $1,500, $2,000 or something that we
I
can
thought 2,000.
contribute to it, and then see if they wanna find somebody to do it, and just go, hey, the county's willing to contribute those funds, and then Skylar can kinda give it the final once over to make sure that the approach is, not a detriment to the traffic or something, but.
I would say local guys will step up with payloaders and just haul it, but maybe just the payloaders.
I agree, I don't think it's a huge project, and I think they can find someone, especially if they know,
That's what
they don't
the
have to donate it to, or they don't have to donate all of it, maybe a few other church members will come up with the additional couple hundred like necessary, or somebody will donate that if they're getting at least this, so
What, do we need a motion put in place here?
I would say it'd be appropriate, just to make sure it's in the minutes.
I'll make a motion to donate $2,000 towards the project.
And if they don't need the $2,000, they'll allocate it back.
Well, I mean, that's kind of part of the discussion, I think that,
Well,
I'd
if
say
they're
for
putting
now-
the fence up and everything else, they're probably gonna.
I'd say if anything, the proper thing, since we have a motion, is to get a second, and we'll discuss it, so Commissioner Hall made the motion to appropriate $2,000 from the abandoned cemeteries fund,
I'll second it.
seconded by Commissioner Materi. Now we're in discussion. As far as making sure it's allocated properly, that's a decision we would have to make, I guess, if somebody wants to submit a bill,
Yeah, to find out.
or do we wanna only contribute to certain parts of it? Those are the questions we have to answer right now.
I'd say they should find out what it's gonna cost first.
Well, they're gonna be over 2,000 if they have a fence going.
Well, I don't think the fence is really part of the
That's gonna be a
discussion.
whole lot. They don't care about the fence, I don't think, they want the approach, correct?
I
From what I understood
I
from
was
Gary.
asked for the approach, and then when I brought up the idea of like, well, if you're going that far, you should consider, if you're gonna make this kind of a project, then you might as well just make a small little gravel trail to it, that's the defined trail. Who's ever farming it should try and stay off it and give them the trail, and after that, the fence, that can be up to the church or the people there if they wanna donate or build a fence. I don't really think that's fair to us, and even with the gravel, I never once brought up the idea of donating, it's just that we do have some county funding for specific things like this. It seems like a good, I mean, this is basically an abandoned cemetery, nobody really knows who's responsible for it. We do budget some funds for that stuff, and I think that would be worthy of it.
I would think Mrs. Feist would donate the gravel for that, I would think, and just get a few farmers there, then
Then
there's,
get a few farmers, get
then
up
there's
to
nothing,
3 payloaders,
then
it's
there'd be
done.
nothing really.
Nothing.
I mean, I can tell you one thing, if the public knows there's $2,000 allocated, you're gonna get billed for at least $2,000, I mean, that's just, but that being said, if we're comfortable
To
with
church, they
allocating
aren't
that,
gonna milk it.
I think, well, no, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I just know that nobody's gonna donate that much, and they're like, well, they said they'd spend $2,000, you're gonna get $2,000. If they don't spend that much, they'll get a little more gravel, and it all makes sense, I'm fine with that, so I think the proper thing to do is if we make this motion, then we can contact Mr. Hager and say, the county has made available $2,000 for this project, you guys spearhead it, if you wanna submit a bill, and then we can approve it, and just like we do with Langler's Bay or Rice Lake or some of these other type things when there's stuff going on. I mean, and you can inspect it yourself, if it looks like a pretty clean, clear-cut approach with a little bit of gravel, and you're like, yeah, that's what we decided.
Were they asking for money to do it, or were they just asking permission for the approach and gravel?
Well, they were asking for the county to build the approach.
To build the approach. And they wanted the permit that he said he got from.
He had got the approach with the assumption that he was gonna get the approach, we were gonna build a approach for the cemetery. I told him that I wasn't in favor of building that, because like we said, we're spread thin. But he had mentioned that we had funds, and I did agree with him that that was what we had here, and I said, I'm not against contributing some funds towards it, but as far as building it, I think it's just like anything else. Anybody files for an approach permit in this county, we expect them to build their own permit, or their own approach, so. If they wanna build an approach and submit a bill for $2,000, and we go out there, and Skylar goes, yeah, they bought a culvert, they built an approach, and they put a little gravel down, and that's exactly what they said they were gonna do. I got no problem with, if whatever individuals wanna submit it, or the church, I don't know who's gonna spearhead that.
Skylar, you have plastic culverts out there, like 24s or 12s, whatever, 16s.
I don't think we have that small one, I think we have a 24-inch.
But nothing smaller.
Not a plastic one smaller, I mean, we have some small steel culverts out there. You guys wanna donate it to them or sell it to them at?
Used culverts or what?
We don't really get any used ones that are
Okay.
in good enough shape.
Okay.
I mean, in my opinion, that's something where if someone's gonna build it, it's not that hard to go to the car trailer to Menards and get some dual wall poly. And I feel like, I don't wanna be any more involved in it than we really have to, other than that, we have funds, I think we should allocate funds. If the project's built the way we agree that we kinda want it to be spent for, cut whoever built it a check, or whoever submits a bill, that's.
Should have got good flare ends on it.
Well, really, that water doesn't go anywhere, it kinda just sits in a bowl, so I mean, I don't think putting a culvert there, if you guys wanna allocate them to put a culvert, or make them put a culvert in there, then they can put a culvert in.
I think a small culvert would be smart,
So
just in
smart.
case that one doesn't hold stop, well, at least it would equalize out and drain out, I think that'd be smart.
Then the next thing, we'll have a soft spot on that road.
Right, you should just have an approach so at least it drains to the absolute
Just the way it
low
is.
spot, so I don't think that's bad.
Right, I know some counties out there that's, no matter what their approach is, it requires a culvert, like if it's on top of the hill, they still put a culvert.
Culvert.
And I mean, maybe that's something we can address later on.
I can just tell you, if they use a 20-foot piece of that pipe, it's gonna cost them about $30 a foot. I mean, so you're looking at $600, I mean, in the grand scheme of things for a culvert, that's where I just, you know, with the motion in the second here, I think we'll just have to use our discretion. If they go out there and build something or do something we didn't think was right, I guess we can handle that later, but I'm gonna go ahead and support appropriating this and assume they're gonna do what they say they're gonna do, and we can just probably pay for part of it or whatever, and then I think it'll be fine, so.
Yeah.
So with that, we have a motion and a second to appropriate $2,000 out of the abandoned cemeteries fund to go to an approach and culvert and miscellaneous road work for the Tierce Bowl or Trestle Bowl, I've heard it both ways, cemetery, so. That's right north of Strasburg there, so we have a motion and a second, is there any more discussion?
Will that be paid out upon completion then, correct?
Right, I would say the agreement would be that someone's gonna have to submit an invoice, whether it's the church as a group, or if it's individual that builds it, or several individual, however they wanna do it.
Okay.
And I don't think the amount should be more than $2,000, so that's my thought.
Yeah.
Anybody kind of in agreement, those are the general terms, someone's gonna turn in a bill to us? Okay?
Are you gonna talk to Gary, or should I? You want to?
Yeah, I mean, it really don't matter, I can call him, cause I've been in contact with him, I'll call
Okay.
Gary on whatever the decision
You
is.
said he talked to you too.
So we have a motion and a second, is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion approved, so. Okay. Next item on the agenda is gonna be a conditional use permit for a gravel crushing plant.
Okay, Dwayne Holm contacted me, a half a mile off of Highway 11 on 17th Avenue. He's going to have a crushing plant, there's gonna be 2 conveyors coming in, excavator, they're gonna be, I think, hauling in about 10 loads of gravel, or hauling in about 10 loads or something like that. It's gonna take about 10 days. He's wondering if he needs a conditional use permit. Or should I just tell him to just get, the company coming in should just get permits from Lopez?
I would say that.
Well, isn't,
Where's
I
this
don't know if I
at?
have my ordinance, but I mean, I thought
He said
gravel,
it's a half a mile off.
I thought a gravel pit was something that needed a conditional use permit.
Where's it at, to the west of Hay?
Right by the dump ground, right by the hay
Well,
there.
that one time that Fisher Sand
By the
gravel
way,
crushing,
Wall's been saying,
they just did the Lopez.
And they're doing what, they're gonna crush gravel?
But is,
Dwayne bought that piece of land there and there's a little bit of gravel in there, and I think he wants to get that gravel out of there. That's what it is. It's right across from.
when Fisher Sand and Gravel did it, was that for us though, or was that for an individual?
I think it was for somebody, I think he was crushing it, but was it Bulldogs, but not for us or something? I don't know.
Well, cause we ended up actually, all that gravel pretty much got crushed for us up in.
Then it was for us, I suppose.
Right, see, like, load pass permit, I think absolutely, but I think if an individual wants to like start a gravel pit, I think that needs a conditional use permit. I don't have my ordinance book on me, plus I have it down in the drawer downstairs. I'm not sure.
Josh, you have yours too?
I think I could have swore, remember, like a gravel pit was considered like a conditional use permit. Sure.
But don't they still have to get all agreement permits to come in? You would think, huh?
Well, I think just to bring the equipment in, I think you would just have to do the load pass permit system. But if anybody's gonna haul any gravel out, like a contractor or something, then they have to do a haul road agreement with us. So like if Fishers or Shabenskis or WDS, those are kind of the main ones that do any crushing in this area, if they're gonna crush and haul material in and out of there, they need a haul road agreement.
Yeah, it looks like conditional use permit would have to be.
For a gravel pit, right?
Yeah, well, it falls under subsurface mining and surface abstraction. It's subsurface.
I mean, I would think gravel would be no different than mining for anything else, so I would say you would need a conditional use permit.
Okay, I'll tell him.
Somebody who's gonna mine anything else up there, I would say we'd make them do it, so I can even go gravel, I mean, I think it'd be a pretty painless process for the most part, the only thing you would need a meeting notice, and then what, 2 weeks, Joe, and then you gotta do some kind of public hearing, which generally for those smaller ones, we've done at the meetings, the regular meetings, so. Unless we would have a special meeting to speed up the timeliness of it, if that was the case, then we'd probably have one in a couple of weeks here or something like that to do
I don't
it.
think anybody's gonna show.
I don't think it's a problem, but it's a matter of just like any other permit, I mean, there's lots of permits we approve in here that none of us think you even have to apply for, but you still gotta do, I mean.
15 minutes is not what we need.
Right, I think a conditional, as far as a public hearing, I don't think you're gonna have anybody, so I don't really see an issue with it other than that's the process, so.
Okay, I'll tell him he needs one.
I mean, unless there's something else, I would say if a private individual's gonna be mining gravel, then it would probably need a conditional use permit.
Okay,
At least that's kinda how I had read it in the ordinance book before, but like I said, I don't have it on me, so. So you would, well, like I said, with the conditional use permit, there would have to be basically an application, and then there's
I have to advertise it for a couple of weeks.
2 weeks, I believe, and then you'd have to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Generally with those, the public hearing is usually done at 10:30 at the regular meeting or something, and by 10:45, nobody's here, and you know, nobody.
Green light.
I don't think it's gonna be an issue, other than just it's a part of the process, so. Anybody else have anything to add to that, or? Okay. Well, with that kinda concludes the agenda items, other than departmental budgets, so.
You wanna do budgets, you wanna do the bottom part, or budgets?
Oh, you wanna just do the bottom right away, or there's just a couple building permits, so yeah, okay. Miscellaneous. One is a renewal building permit for Stuart Aldrin to erect a 38 by 28 cabin on the south half of the south half. West right away on section 25, township 130, range 79.
Yeah, he's renewing that. He, built the shop but not the house yet, so he's just renewing it, built the house. Setbacks were all good when we, initially approved it. He's over 200 feet off the highway, so.
This is something we approved, you just renewing,
Yep.
nothing's changed.
Yeah, because he just did the shop, he hasn't done the house yet, so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Commissioner Everly makes a motion to approve the renewal building permit for Stuart Aldrin Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Miller, is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Permit approved. Or renewed. Renewal approved. Building permit for Jordan Bosch to move a 56.5 by 27.5 double wide home on the east half of the southeast quarter, section 17, township 132, range 77.
Yeah, so there's an abandoned yard here. He's gonna put 600-700 feet off in the corner here. So, I didn't see any issues with that.
What street is that off of? It's Second Avenue and what?
Second and 81st.
Did you buy that then?
Yeah, that's in his name.
Where's that?
That's Clyde's to the south there.
Oh, so it's
About
north of
a
Clyde's.
mile south is Clyde's.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve, table, or deny a building permit for Jordan Bosch. Commissioner Materi makes a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Miller, is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Permit approved. Next is a raffle permit for Strasburg 125th to do a 50-50 raffle at the Bull Bash on August 18th, 2024 at Strasburg Rodeo Grounds.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Commissioner Everly makes a motion to approve the raffle for Strasburg 125th, seconded by Commissioner Holm. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Permit approved. Next is a building permit for Trenton Schwann to construct a 40 by 14 guest house on lots 217 to 218, Walters Beaver Bay subdivision, section 23, township 132, range 79.
Yeah, so right now he's got a shop there. He's gonna build a little residence right there. Setbacks would be good. Closest was 60 feet and that meets the setback, so. And it's 2-acre parcel, so.
Whereabouts is it down there?
What's that?
Whereabouts is
This
it?
is on top of the hill, going
Oh,
up that
top
smell
of the hill.
lane.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of the first place after you come up out of the hill.
Go up that smell lane, up that big hill.
Oh, okay, way to the north there.
Entertain a motion to approve, table, or deny a permit for Trenton Schwann. Trenton Schwann.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion to approve. Commissioner Materi makes a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Miller, is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Permit approved.
Did we approve?
You still got this utility permit.
Did you do the utility permit for South Central Water?
No. So there's a utility permit for South Central Regional Water District to install a 2-inch rural water line crossing Second Avenue southeast from section 17, 13277 to section 16, 13277. Skylar, did you look at that at all?
I believe so, I believe I signed it, right?
Okay.
It's signed. On the back, I believe, yeah. What are they doing, just horizontally boring on the roads?
Yeah, and they've yet to have an issue with South Central Water, so.
Yeah. Do we still have to build that road up going into that water plant? Or is that kind of put on the back burner, going in through all that shale?
It's, I still want it done, yeah. So does another guy wants his road still built, so.
So,
That's a tough one.
entertain a motion to approve, table, or deny the utility permit for South Central Regional Water.
I'll have a motion for
I'll
that.
second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Everly, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Permit approved. Okay, with that, last thing is departmental budgets. Who's first?
That, I just give that to you.
Just gave it to you?
Yeah. Some minutes are from last month too, and I haven't even. You want me to tell Gary first?
Who's first in the book, right?
Well, I have Skylar right at the end, but his are, you know, if he wants to do his, you should, yeah, you just got a page back by. From the back.
Well, road budgets is a hot topic for the day, and Skylar's here, let's just handle it, huh?
The last 5 pages from the back, I believe, are his.
Here's just that approach from it for the church.
You guys don't have to approve that, Gary. Usually you guys just. Santa County Road and Bridge first, Skylar.
County Road and Bridge.
Yeah. And then federal aid, and then road, then highway, and capital projects. That equipment leasing's going up 100,000.
Yeah, with those 2 new motor graders, yep.
You guys lease that much equipment?
It's all those motor graders, yep. I mean, interest rates have taken a hike and equipment's taken a hike and you guys approved those 2 cab motor graders last, so we gotta put it in this for next year's budget, so.
Right, that's just the leasing on the blades essentially, I mean, there's some other stuff in there, but 90%.
Oh, I think there's a couple trucks in there, but I think they're getting,
Right, well then,
I think they're getting paid off in the next year or 2, so.
Your gravel truck, tractor?
Yep.
those max, right?
Correct. Pretty much it's just the motor graders and the 2 Mack trucks, I believe. That's kind of a big number, huh?
General road construction,
So, yeah, that big 700, let me see, we're in County Road and Bridge, so
yeah,
that's, we put, money in for the paving by the Linton Shop, 6th Avenue there, past the golf course,
What was the
past.
price on that again?
407,000 for that, is
That
what
was
the engineer's estimate was.
Okay.
but that's just an overlay, right?
Yeah, some patchwork and some overlay.
Right,
That much for that.
cause it was more if we were gonna go farther, right, like that's the conversation.
Right, that's, it pretty much stops where it's right at, like
Where
just,
it's at.
just past the county shop entrance, you know?
They don't pick it up and mill
No, well, they might go surface or micro mill it,
it? There's just some tough spots in there.
right, and they'll patch those spots, they'll dig those out, and there's some construction parts of that, but the other stuff they just kind of mill. And remember, this was a number that was given last summer, or this, a couple months ago, in April or something, when we were looking at it. So that's the new one, we have chip sealing, for those roads around the Linton area, you know, that the city was spearheading, that we agreed on what we would take over. So we put in $100,000 for that. And then, yeah, the loaders in there, we put in some, oh, that's gravel, I guess we put in some money there, so. And then just, what we had in there for other general road construction and projects, you know. Last year approved 240,000 for, you know, just general stuff, so you add those numbers up.
Yeah.
It gets to be expensive, and these are some of the, you know,
But-
previous discussions, you know, like what, we have to either do something with it or
Oh, you gotta do that, yeah, person, it's gotta be,
you can't do it. You can't afford to do it, but you can't afford not to do it.
right, that's,
And then, you know, we just put some extra money in there for engineering, just in case, you know, there's always some hidden costs with some of this stuff. And then plus whatever road projects we wanna do or anything like that, so. I know we have a few different engineering budgets throughout the
so what's going on with construction?
general road construction / DOT, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah,
Well, that would be, your pavement by the Linton shop, and then, your chip sealing, and then
oh,
just.
that's all on there.
Yeah, that's why that number is so big.
Well, 'cause it looks to me like that, your budget, you're requesting $500,000 more dollars, and basically you get 500,000 for an overlay and chip seal, right? I mean, that's
Pretty much what,
pretty much the bulk of it, is
pretty much the
those
bulk
two,
of it.
yeah.
And you wanna do that next spring?
Well, if you allocate the money, yeah, then we would, you know, get everything finalized and out for bids, and probably, you know,
Spring, summer next.
spring, you know, it'd probably, after the first of the year, try to bid it out, and then, yeah, probably construction of 20.
Because I think they're coming in to do the city after the 4th.
Mhm. Well, yeah,
Well, they're not chip sealing it until next year, right? That's what why I'm.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they're doing some patching and some small work this fall, and then next spring is gonna be
Centennial
shit.
or whatever, right?
Yeah. So I got a couple holes to dig in the streets, and I was told to do them at the Centennials. That's,
Oh, wow.
well, no, like, and then they're gonna be patching in town anyway, so it'll save the city and whoever's doing the work, it'll save them some money, cause there's gonna be a crew in town doing patch work and repairs, basically prep for a chip seal, was kind of the way I was told, so. Makes sense? Okay.
Whatever happened, Scott, over there where you go out of Strasburg, that highway, going south by the Anheuser's plant, because the city approached me to cost share some spots. Did they ever approach you on that?
Nobody's ever approached me.
Ever?
Nope.
Where they come out with the semis loaded from the elevator site. Instead of going west, they go south, and there was a couple of tough spots in there.
Yeah, nobody's
ever-
ever talked to me about it.
I guess I talked to this guy, I'll go up to the county shop and talk to him. They never did. Okay.
Nope. I know that's one of the ones, they call that the rodeo ground road,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
We did submit that for some funding, but we got denied on it, so.
Okay.
We tried to get it submitted, so that's, it's another one of those, it's, we can't afford to do it, but we can't afford not to do it. I don't believe we submitted it for this year, our budget to try to do that one this year. Hopefully it'll hold on, hopefully there's another round of funding maybe.
Well, if anybody's got any other questions, if not, we'll move on to federal aid.
So that, the big engineering, we bumped up a little bit. 20,000, under the construction, that big number, that is for to redo that mile outside of Strasburg that goes
That's what I was asking.
on that federal aid road, and that engineer's estimate was 715,000. That's why that one's, you know, such a big budget.
That's another one, that's just a mill and overlay.
I believe so, there's a little bit more work to that, but then it's also a little longer, so it's,
There's a lot of tough spots.
yeah, so,
There's a lot of freight going across that.
right. So I mean, that's a discussion we gotta have if we wanna do it, do we wanna cut back and turn it back to gravel? I mean, if we wanna open that discussion, I would still leave it back a ways from the state highway for the dust problem and stuff like that in that intersection. I'm sure it got paved, not sure why it got paved way back in the day, but
It got paved because they couldn't hold the road there. Coming in, there was so much traffic coming from the west and the south. And Ted Madden evidently was on the county commission. He pushed it to get it paved because they couldn't hold the road.
and then, I mean,
And it
if
was
we,
the old 83 corridor, but it was never blacktop.
So I guess
That's what
if
they got
we
done.
were to turn it back, then we'd probably have that issue.
The rodeo ground, you know, be the
Well,
same.
that's the thing, we're always looking at, could it pave it last about 8 to 10 years?
I don't know, it's tough, cause I talked to a McIntosh County Commissioner at lunch, he was in town here, and he said they're actually abandoning 10 miles of pavement and turning it back to gravel, cause they can't afford to pave all them roads. I mean, cause McIntosh, they have the luxury of having less gravel per blade, guys, but they have a lot of pavement, and that's starting to rear its ugly head too, so when I talked to him, and he's like, oh, I said, well, we're discussing paving some roads, and he's like, oh, we're talking about getting rid of 10 miles of pavement, I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, like west of Squishit or something like that, there's a
Oh, yeah.
they said it's just so expensive to fix and they don't feel like the traffic is there. I mean, not saying that this deserves that, I'm just saying it's kinda interesting, cause
And
not
the
everybody,
traffic isn't on that road anymore.
not everybody views.
It's probably out there by Pete Meyer.
Yeah, it is.
I just know they said like, not everybody's dying to save every piece of asphalt now too, because it's talking $1 million for a stretch that turns to gravel immediately after that. I mean, it's kinda crazy when you think about it, it's just crazy, I don't know, it's a lot of money.
I don't know how do people feel about the mile out there, I'm sure they want that, no?
I'm sure the people do.
Say get rid of any
They don't
pavement.
see pavement.
Right,
They
yeah,
don't wanna see pavement?
No, don't wanna see it leave.
right,
Leave.
keep every inch you can, but it's getting
Yeah, once
pretty
you get
expensive,
pavement,
man.
it's the last thing you
Like
can
tearing
get
the
rid of,
streets out
yeah.
winter, you
Yeah.
know?
Right, no,
Going
you're
back
right,
to
you're
gravel,
right.
you know, cause it's costly, we can't
Yeah.
afford this.
It's just unreal.
It was a blessing when you got curb and gutter paved.
Right, just, and it will be striped this year, whether we do anything, and we're still, they're coming, I haven't heard a start date on it, but we approved for all the asphalt to get restriped and painted this year, so.
Do you wanna go ahead with that? The cost?
We kinda have to, like, it should have been done years ago, and it's just one of those, it's an ongoing cost to asphalt, and it should have been done, right, so. Like
Is
even,
it a requirement by law?
yeah, like, we're supposed to do it, yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, and actually I drove through Westfield yesterday, and even those little patches had it at one time, so they're gonna get it again. So, right, it does make sense, but it's asphalt, so it should be painted,
It's crazy.
right? I mean, to do every pavement that we have, the bid come in at about $50,000, so it's not a overly expensive process. I mean, that's all the roads up by Braddock, Hazelton, any asphalt roads we have, so.
Well, I was gonna say Braddock and Kintyre gotta be a majority of that cost right there then.
Right,
because
and
it's-
some of that's federal aid, so we'll take that
Right,
from the federal aid budget.
Well, then don't you get federal aid like going through Westfield?
Yeah, we'll use that money to, what is it, Langlois Bay and
And
the,
the mile is what federal aid?
yep,
Yep.
so,
The road going out of Strasburg, isn't it?
No,
The
that's-
rodeo road?
no.
no.
So, I mean, that we'll just dig into a little bit different budget for that, but, so a good portion is,
So what portion do we get back then in federal aid roads? Roughly?
well, you don't get anything really back, it's just money that you guys allocated and then we
Okay.
can,
Okay.
that they voted on at 5 mills or whatever, so.
That mill levy that we, generate tax revenue for the federal aid, most of that is supposed to be to pay for our share, cost share on projects with federal aid.
Okay.
So there's, I think some projects, we have to pay for it, they reimburse us back, some of it we pay the engineering and they pay the construction, every project is
Different.
depending on which mechanism of funding it comes from, so, which department or all that stuff, but, so yeah.
Yeah, and then,
To keep track of all that shit is complicated.
not really much more
That's why.
changing on the other federal aid ones. Fencing and signs, miscellaneous and culverts stayed the same. Just the construction was the biggest change, so.
The sign is a big issue when these kids are shooting out these signs, isn't it? The
Yeah,
cost
gets to
per
be
year.
expensive and, yep,
And time consuming.
time consuming, and the guys that hit them and take down those object markers on the federal aid roads, do the
Is
two.
it a problem?
Yeah, they either take them down or run them over, and
Is there a lot of shooting at signs yet?
we haven't, it's calmed down a little bit, but it's always still a common problem. I mean, we don't go out and change every sign that gets one bullet hole, once it becomes to the point where it's
Can't be it.
harder to read, it messes with the reflectivity, then we go out, cause I mean, if we went out every time there was one bullet hole, we'd need a full-time sign guy just driving around looking at them every day.
I don't understand that, you know?
Well, they don't move, he's a
Yeah.
target, they can see him at night, I don't know. Weren't you ever a kid?
Went out to the rifle range to shot hoopers.
Yeah, I never broke the law when I was a kid either.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Okay, so then road district here, looks like, increase of about $700 some, which looks to be gravel, culverts, contractors, and, the miscellaneous clay and rock mostly, I'm assuming, so.
Yeah, and that's, you know, the miscellaneous clay and rock and cutting edges, that's where we take some of our cutting edges out of, and then if we have to buy clay or rock for any projects, stuff like that. Yeah, the contractors one, we moved up to hopefully hire some contractors, so that's whether we use it for putting in culverts or hauling gravel. That's why that one jumped up, and then, yeah, then gravel we put in. And we jumped the culvert one up too, that one we still have those culverts by Devin Ballers out there, those 3 big 10-footers, so.
Are you putting them in yet this fall? Or this-
No, we don't have the money to do it this year, cause it's like $150,000 just for the culverts.
Well, I know.
And then that leaves us a little bit to restock our culvert, so, you know.
Could we even handle it? With
Be
the
tough.
equipment? It'd be tough, wouldn't it?
It'd be tough, but, I mean, we can definitely think about bidding it out, but it's gonna be a pretty,
That's an intense project.
you know what, it costs to put 3 10-foot culverts by the Kelch on 21st Avenue, so,
Did they start on the center of Lake yet?
nope.
Nothing. Okay.
And then, just, I forgot to update you guys, but, they're gonna start the Kelch one July 12th, I believe. We're having a pre-construction meeting on Tuesday the 9th.
Okay.
So that's their tentative start date. I'll know more after the pre-construction meeting. So. And that meeting will be held in Bismarck at the World Engineering's office. Other than that, not much really changed, just the really big ones, minor increases here and there.
Right, I mean, it looks like the bulk of it's gonna be, you're looking for gravel contractors, culverts, and then obviously an increase just to like the clay and rock and all that, which I'm assuming you're attributing to other projects, I'm supposed to.
Actually, yeah,
I mean, the clay and rock one was going up about 70,000, it looks like, or
right.
65,000, that's not, the biggest increase, obviously, if you're gonna look at it, is, we didn't really, appropriate for gravel last year, which I think the reasoning was is if we were gonna do anything out of graveling, we were gonna maybe take it out of the permit fund, so. We did that to lower the budgets, not take away from gravel in the county, it's just we were gonna use it from other funds, so. Putting it back into the road district here is 350,000, and then 200,000 for culverts, which like you said, 100 plus of it's going to one project, and the rest of it's going to just stock up on inventory, so. And 200,000 for contractors, that's up from 40,000, which I think, we can all agree is a part of the discussion anyway, so. I mean, all the things you're asking for in the road district seem reasonable, so.
That's actually what we need.
Right, I mean, all the other ones look like they've either gone up just a couple percent or not changed at all, so I don't really see a problem with that request. And federal aid looks like the biggest increases, again, you're looking for pavement projects. County road and bridge, your basic, increases is gonna be basically paving around the lit area, sums up the most of it, otherwise it's the same as last year, so.
No,
It's all explainable, you know, it makes sense,
Yeah.
I just will have to see where it lands after we start crunching numbers, but
Right.
preliminary budget's easy, you can ask for whatever you want.
Right.
Other than that, well, this is the truth, preliminary budget is, I mean, you're better off to just throw it against the wall and see what sticks, I don't know, it's too early to cut anything, you don't know what's going
Make
on.
sure.
Only so many mills.
Yeah, the biggest thing is make sure you got enough in there.
Well, I don't think any of the departmental budgets are short preliminary. I think, again, the conversation lands to what do we approve more so than what do they ask for, because it's, seems to be the same thing every year, it's always the preliminaries.
But a lot of it's out of your hands too, because there's only so many millets.
Well, and that was what I was trying to explain to some of the folks this morning, I probably didn't do a very good job, is like you said, even, okay, we're gonna raise $300,000 for culverts and gravel, well, if that mill's already half a mil short of the cap, you're only raising an extra 20,000, you're asking for 500, well, you have to find it from somewhere else or cut, so that's, I mean, that's always the battle, so. Again, there's gonna be a property tax measure on the ballot, most likely, because it sounds like they do that with the signatures. Could change the way we do all this process, and then, we'll see where it lands, so who knows what'll happen, but. Okay, well, I think that's it for the road budgets, right? County road bridge, federal aid.
We didn't do highway tax yet?
Well, highway tax, yeah, but I mean, that's essentially. What have you heard, Marcy, is there any kind of an increase, or are there any changes at all? Gonna go down?
They're projecting it to go down to 25.
Electronic vehicles, or?
Yeah, not much really changed in the highway tax, I mean, we bumped the salaries up a little bit, but it's just. Unemployment stayed the same, meals, travel, that all stayed the same, so.
Looks like a pretty small increase to the salary, so I'm just assuming just kind of a cost of living kind of adjustments and things like that is what you're asking for?
Right, yep.
I mean, the only question, I guess, is the one we discussed earlier, if we're looking at raising some wages on any specific thing or something like that. You know, more seasonal help, anything like that, now's the time to at least, I mean, it doesn't have to.
Seasonal help, is that included?
Yes, cause all our salaries come out of the
Okay.
same highway tax, so.
What kind, did you put in any increase for seasonal help?
No, not really, not this year, no, cause, I mean.
I mean, for next year?
Well, no, because
Okay.
these were submitted before all this discussion went on this morning, so.
Well, that, I mean, that's just part of this conversation to be had, I mean, cause, when you approve the preliminary budget, you can go lower, but you can't raise it.
Right.
And we won't approve it till August, right? So we're just looking at them now. Next month, we approve, and then you go through your processes and send out the notices and all that stuff. And then in October is the final, so, I mean, technically we'd have next month to still make an adjustment of some kind. That's something that we need to consider then, or whatever, if you're looking for any additional. Once you approve the preliminary, you could raise other budgets, I suppose, but you would have, you can't raise the total.
You can't raise the mill levy.
So if you were gonna raise something else within reason, you'd have to cut somewhere else, though, right?
Right.
So it's technically even not locked in essentially, but if you approve your preliminary, then you go back later and wanna make any adjustments, you gotta find it from somewhere else. So, cause you can't raise the total mill levies, so. Sharon?
Yeah, I just had a question, just based on the discussion this morning too, focusing on the road department. So obviously, there's, not enough money to do everything that everyone wants. But does the county, like in Skylar's budget, does he have a set list of projects that the budget's included? And like, does it say we can gravel 300 miles of road every year or something like that? Or is there some metrics so that as a taxpayer, and I'm not speaking because I don't live on a gravel road, but from what you heard here, people don't understand, the relationship between how much roads they can get gravelled, but how much manpower or how much money we have to spend. So is there something that sets an expectation that, well, we can only gravel 1/5 of the roads of the county every year, or 1/10 of them, or whatever it is? Is that taken into consideration when you build your budget? Or is it just an amount, we're just gonna spend 250,000 or whatever the number is? I'd just be curious, because it might set expectations for us as taxpayers on what we can expect with the budget, and if we want more services, well then that might mean the taxes have to increase. Just a comment.
Well, I don't think we have any kind of like the discussion is kind of like what we had. I mean, there's certain projects that like Skylar has an expectation of doing, and then we've discussed those, like the chip sealing and the overlay. And I mean, that's probably about the extent of it though, so, I mean,
So, because it sounds like there's a set amount for culverts, or there's a set amount for graveling, but what does that buy? You know, I don't know.
Do you have a plan for, say, next year, if you got extra money? Because today you said if you had extra money, we could really set the world on fire with graveling. Do you have a plan or something to show the taxpayers, say, next meeting, what that would entail with this extra money, what all would be done with that?
Well, it depends on the route we wanna take, cause a couple previous meetings, you know, we had a plan, and a thing and everything like that, and a set amount of money that we figured it would cost, and then it was like, that's too much, like, this was the map that was presented, right?
Right.
So
On 32 miles.
32
Right.
miles, right? So,
Right.
do we wanna, evidently, we've heard today that spot graveling's not the option anymore, it doesn't work, you get this spot's really good and this spot's bad, right? So now, do we wanna go lean towards more of getting away from spot graveling and go more into this form and then allocate a plan after that? Or do we wanna go into just keep spot graveling and then have maps made up, and then a year from now or 2 years from now, if we get a bunch of rain, they come after us again? Like, I mean, that's the direction that I need to know where we wanna go. If we wanna go into the spot gravel, which kind of the consensus is it doesn't work, but also we can't afford to just go out and do every mile in the county. So do we wanna build a small project of 10 miles and really hammer it, or do we wanna try to stretch it out over 20 miles and get 20 miles with gravel on it, but it probably is not gonna hold or last? I mean, you guys all heard we spent the money down in the Westfield area, and we put 1,000 loads of gravel on there, and it's great in some areas, and the areas that we skipped are now rearing their ugly heads, so, I mean, that's where we need to come together and decide if we're gonna keep spot gravel, or if we're gonna try to go hardcore and do less but more. So, if we wanna go into spot gravel, then we can build a map. But the map's not, I mean, if we build a map for hardcore graveling just like this was up just outside, Lytton, like 17th and 13th Avenue up there, just south of,
Is that up there by Grunfelder's, isn't it?
no, that's south of 11 here, 13.
South of 11, 13.
13 here, yeah, 13th Avenue going south.
But do you feel, I mean, I just look at it, can we really afford 32 miles of graveling for 500?
No, we can't afford it, but we can't afford not to do it either, cause you hear all the stuff in there. So this is the web we're stuck in, right? Like,
It's damned if you do and damned if you don't, you know?
correct. So, I mean, I guarantee you call up every person in the county and they would want gravel on their road, right?
Right.
Well, we can't do that, so. I mean, we're graveling up north because those people, I mean, we have 12 miles of road that's pretty much shot. Like, and there was maybe a quarter of a mile that didn't need some site, or probably didn't need any gravel, but at a quarter of a mile, you just go over the top of it, right? That's what you do. And we're not putting it on that thing.
It'd be nice to be able to cover the whole thing in 5 years, but you can't do it.
Right. So,
But they do it in sections, I talked to, Chad Schneider.
right.
I talked to Chad, the way they do it, these 1 mile stretches with that base one material. The way they go about it, he said, it lasts. If you do it right, he said, in Packers, as you're doing it. I don't know, he said it's like super glue when you use it.
Yeah. That's what he said.
Huh? You've talked to him too?
I've talked to the salesman for that.
Yeah. Have you ever used it, Scott?
Me personally, no, they used it at Burley County and I watched them use it.
Yeah.
So, me personally, I've never used that.
He talked, everything.
I mean, it sounds like I've talked to the salesman and some other, like I've talked to Mr. Schneider from Morgan County about it, and yeah, they rave reviews, but once again,
It works.
it probably does work, right? Our problem is manpower and money. That's our biggest problem. Like, you gotta rip that road up a little bit, and then they add it to their water tank, and then they run a sheep's foot over it, right?
Right.
And pack it, and then they add more gravel.
And then they come with more gravel once it's back.
But do they have contractors too?
They've got 18, what did he say or two? They got a total of 12 to 13 trucks that run every day. They got 8 county trucks that run, and 5 Knife River trucks that run every day, to a budget of $250,000 that they pay Knife River. They pay $158 per hour to these guys. When they meet that $250,000 mark, they're done for the year. They graveled 138 miles evidently so far. And I think they got a total of, the hell did he say, 1,400 miles? But he said in our tough spots, if we got a mile that's tough, that's where we use that base 1 material. And it ends up, he said, like blacktop.
Yeah.
Did you ask him what his total gravel budget was?
No, I didn't have long enough on the phone to discuss that with him.
Well, the main.
1.2 million, and they increased it to 1.5 this year.
And with
So they did
gravel,
Well, I've talked to him, yeah, I mean, I've
with
talked.
graveling 138 miles, is that considered like spot graveling though? That's kind of what, I mean, cause they're not doing like what we talked about, laying like 4 inches.
No.
Right, and so they're blending and spot graveling and, you know, they're, I mean.
He said you can't gravel the whole time.
Right, well, and that's where, I
Just as it
guess just to kind of piggyback on that, I think the spot graveling would work. I think what's happened here is like last year was the first time we've ever done anything like that, where we went out, we got a contractor and we hauled 1,000 loads of gravel. I mean, like, if that was the program every year, and you did that for 20 years, you're gonna be better off than you were. Like, I know the first year didn't work, because guess what? It's so bad out there for not hauling gravel for 30 years.
That it's not.
Right, but if you go through, let's just say that there's 4 road districts, right? No offense to Linton, Gary. Not a lot of gravel. There's 4 road districts, and out of those 4 road districts, Terry's and I's are about the size of one of your guys's, right? I mean, so essentially, let's call it 3 road districts. If we're just
Yeah,
for the
break
sake
it
of
down.
discussion,
Yeah,
if you hauled 1,000 loads of gravel in 3 road districts every year for 20 years, I think, you would be back to some consensus of, hey, this spot's still kinda ugly, but overall, we're in better shape. I think we need to stick to the plan on it. I think we need to do like what we discussed, which is we need to be a little more precise on our spot gravel. Not a criticism of what happened last year, but every year just going, okay, maybe we're gonna tighten these up a little more, or maybe we're gonna pick an area that, or maybe we're gonna split it into 2 areas, or whatever. I mean, I'm not talking about reinventing the wheel every year, I'm talking about coming up with a plan, just like you do with your farming or your business operation. I'm gonna start doing, a good example is my business. We bought a boring machine. The first year we had it, I don't wanna say it was a disaster, we didn't know what we were doing. Year 4 and 5, we're still not great, but we're better. Every year we got a little better equipment, a little better plan, and you just keep doing it, and then in 20 years, you become something that everybody goes, man, I wish I was like that. Well, it took 20 years, I mean.
it's kinda like farming.
I mean, it's,
What
yeah.
they call it precision farming. You put your fertilizer down in your more productive areas, and that's just the way it is. It's kinda like graveling. You put more gravel in areas that need it, and those that don't need it, don't gravel it.
I think.
It is kinda like when I had lunch today, yeah, Craig was there, the gal where she lived on 78th Street.
Yes.
She manages or owns the grill. She said there's 2 spots coming from the substation on Highway 1804 coming off of 13 going north. She said, go west, there's 2 spots, all I need is 2-3 loads of gravel. Not me, everybody that travels that road, that area is silent, she said, for complaints. It's good then.
Right.
Right, so that's a very small window of roads in this county like that probably need 2 or 3.
Correct, I agree.
2 or 3. You get up north and even down south, I guarantee you there's roads down south that's probably 8 miles that are like, just, there's nothing there. So how do you spot gravel 8 miles? You spot gravel those whole 8 miles.
Right, I mean, that's exactly like what we're talking about. I mean, you're gonna have to,
So,
it's gonna have to also be a juice worth the squeeze thing. I'm not trying to say some people's roads aren't worth more, but what I'm saying is if you have 40 miles that you could get in a contingent area and 40 miles that's this big, you try and go through and hit your smallest pockets where they're the closest and you just try and do the most damage you can for the least amount of time, and it's gonna have to spread, but you're gonna take some criticism, because someone's always gonna be waiting. That's not gonna change, but we've already come to the conclusion. There's really no other way we're gonna gravel this county without doing like what we did last year. I think last year was successful, just It's just gonna have to get,
Takes
every
attention
year's
every
gonna
year.
be a little different, whatever, we're gonna have to just learn from the mistakes of last year, whatever they were, we're gonna see what went good and try and multiply that, and go from there. I don't think you're gonna get away with anything else, I just don't, and with 1,200 some miles, if you can spot gravel 100 miles a year, you could do the county in 12 years, even that's not fast enough, but it's better than what's been getting done, and so.
You take the road that Kirk made the remark about this one, that you could go and poke enough rock out to rip wrap 17th Avenue, that's the old Highway 83 corridor. I mean, that road is old, going south of the rodeo grounds, that's old. And yeah, it's gonna be beat, that clay base, the semis traveling, the cars flying at 75 and 80, they're kicking all that binder up in the air, people don't realize it, they're proud of that dust they kick, but all that binder is gone. And that rock that was thrown into the base of that road to build it, they're being exposed now. It's just the way it is. It's an old road.
When the blade pops one of those rocks out, those big ones, what's the protocol on that? Do they call somebody to come and pick it up or push it in the ditch or what?
They're supposed to push it in the ditch and then flag it and then let us know to come pick it up.
Okay,
So some of them, if it's small enough or whatever, they either put it on their mold board and take it to a culvert or something like that, or they can bat it down the road if it's not too far. If it's too big, then it gets flagged. Like I know we've had, 2 years ago, there was one really big one that he popped out and then he didn't flag it, but then we were made aware of it and then we flagged it and then went and picked it up right away, so, a day or two later, so.
Because I'd gladly, if you pop them out, let me know and I'll go pick them up on the roadway that's adjacent to my property,
All right.
versus running them through a hay conditioner.
Guys, we're getting a little bit in the weeds, this is a budget discussion, so
Yeah,
I hate to
okay.
pull you off. I'd say for the sake of discussion of where we were at, the long story short of it, I think 200,000 for contractors is probably enough, just for the specific fact that you run into bid requirements if you're gonna go more than that unless you can split it up between several contractors, so I think for now, that's probably good enough with the consensus that we're gonna be looking at contracting some more work, I think.
And Shabinsky's coming in to do it.
Oh, well, that's for
Or is
this
it
year,
somebody
that,
else?
not for this budget item, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
him having 200,000 in for contractors there is probably
Yeah.
good enough, because any more than that, like I said, unless you really have a specific project, you're gonna run into bid requirement issues. What is it, 200,000, Joe, is like the limit?
250.
250, so. Unless you wanna budget $249,999, whatever, I mean, and we can pull money out of other funds if it came to something like that, so. For the sake of budget discussion, so we can get through these departmental budgets, I guess I don't see anything other than the road department, the only issue would be like we talked about, if we wanna have changes to summer help, or adding different kinds of help, or build something like that. Something you can maybe think about, that can be discussed before we approve it.
I think we should.
But, I mean, if you wanna increase it, I don't know what the proper increase would be,
Yeah, I don't know how
you
to,
know, whatever.
I just think it should be, if we can get more help or do a little more pay, whatever.
Sure.
I think it would be a good idea.
I think a good idea would be to piggyback off Sharon's comment, maybe at least put a short list of some bigger projects that you're thinking, you know, like this chip sealing, maybe some kind of an idea of a graveling project, we could call it Hazelton area or East, something, and maybe a rough mileage to it, something, and, you know, like 150 miles of spot graveling at $380,000, so at least like you said, we kinda maybe have kind of an earmark protocol list of things that, cause I know you know a lot about it, and we discuss it in some of these meetings, but throughout the course of the year, some stuff gets mothballed because it costs too much, or the weather's not working out, or end up raising a road somewhere, things change, so it'd be good to have something kinda written down at least for that. Be a good idea, especially maybe for the next meeting or something. I'm sure you got most of that information, I'd say just put it in paper.
Okay, we will do that.
Okay.
I guess the only other thing I got, and you're probably not gonna like this, Skylar, is, I would make a motion that you have to move down here to the county.
Are we into it, can you do that, or are we into the budget discussions now?
Seems like a rather inappropriate time to make a motion for it, I guess, but,
Well, he's done, we're done with
I
it,
guess,
right?
you know, right,
That's my opinion, but I mean, to the other guy, but I think if you're gonna work down here, we need better service out of you, and I think.
I don't think the service is out of me, I blatantly disagree with that comment right there, but that's my opinion, your opinion, so.
Okay.
Commissioner Everly's made a motion to, mandate that Skylar Perowitz moved to Emmons County. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion?
I'll make a second.
Commissioner Materi makes a second. We're now in discussion.
Is there a timetable on that? Will there be a timetable on that?
Well, I would say as soon as possible, I mean, it's been long enough, there was a timetable before, and never.
I know there was, that's why I'm saying, is there a timetable for what?
Month.
Are we requesting that Skylar just has an established residence in Emmons County, or
No,
does
that
he
he's-
not have a residence in another county? Does that work? What's the,
Full-time or just through the week?
Full-time, I mean, that he's down here.
what constitutes full-time, that was a question. I'm not trying to be a smart butt or that, I'm just saying, like, if he rents an apartment down here, but his main residence is in Bismarck, is that still a problem? Is that, I mean, those are the questions, cause I mean, there's dual residents all over the county too, I mean, so if he rents an apartment in Linton,
Doug never lives there, that's not what we want.
well, the only reason I ask it is because it's just kind of really like, okay, so then that means you're gonna force him to live here, but his wife and kids don't live here too, and they live in a house up there, and he goes up there 3 days out of the week, is that still a problem? Those are, it's treading an interesting line, that's all I'm saying, you're gonna have
The
to.
first discussion was that he was supposed to move down there with, go down there with. So, that's kinda how I feel, I guess.
Right, that's fine, I'm just asking for some clarification on it, cause that's where, I mean, renting an apartment somewhere, or, I mean, sleeping in someone's basement, does it count or not? Does he have to own a property? Can he rent it? Are we gonna
I didn't have to.
ask well, that's why I'm just curious, I mean, what is, I mean, if you're gonna make a motion like that, there's probably gonna have to be some specifics to it if you're gonna.
I make a motion that he moves down here and lives down here. That's what my motion would be.
And then the question is if he denies it? I mean, that's what we're in discussion for the motion, because if you make the motion and he doesn't do it, I mean, what's gonna happen?
Then I think.
That's why I'm asking what the timeline is.
Yeah, I think you'd have to let it go.
So you're looking at by August 1st, September 1st, what are you looking at?
Well, I suppose first of August. It's a month. Just mine, I'm not trying to be mean or anything.
Oh, no, you had 2.5 years to come up with it, let's do it when you're moving out, or when you're not running again, so. Sorry, I mean, that's my feeling, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's my feeling.
Well, it's just, like I said.
So now are you gonna make everybody move into the county?
Well, I would think if that was our original.
So no
deal.
longer David Crum will have to move into the county?
As far as what?
Well, David Crum don't live in the county, so.
Well, neither does Cody Renner, he doesn't live in the county, so I mean.
Well,
Is there a point in my career so far that I haven't been here for anything that's happened?
Well, you heard the people today, right?
Right, and I've got people out there that think the other thing, they don't care either way, so, I mean,
Well,
you've gotta listen to the people that voted you in, right?
Okay,
So,
that's what I'm saying, I'm telling you what the people that voted me in, that's what, they want you to live in this county, and we're supposed to be held accountable, and we said we were gonna have you move here, and you never did, you told us you're probably gonna, and you never did, so.
And I've also been pretty strongly in the last couple meetings that I wasn't gonna move down here, so. I mean, you guys, whatever you decide, let me know.
Well, that's my motion.
Well, now, the thing is it everybody or just
No, just the road supervisor.
the road, I mean,
Because he's the one in charge of everybody.
right, but the other blade operators or something, they're fine where they're living at?
I'm okay with, Cody just lives down across the border, and what's the name of it, right on the other side of county line, a quarter mile, I mean, he's the one that's in charge of everything down here, and supposed to be keeping track of everybody and everything, and I just feel that if he's living here, like even in evenings or whatever, go out and check with guys, this guy did, or that guy did, if he got his work done, or whatever, I mean, I understand you're busy and you run back and forth.
So you want more work for the same amount of money?
Would probably come down to that, basically. I mean, you get paid.
Well, then I
salary.
think I'll be worth more money then, if that's the case then, right? So like this is opening a whole nother can of worms again, so. I mean, but I will listen to your guys' motion and your discussion and your decision. Not trying to be disrespectful, it's just my feeling.
Neither am I. I'm just telling you my feeling and what people voted me in for doing their will, and I'm trying to do the will of the people, whatever. I mean, that's, yeah.
So we have a motion and a second to mandate Skylar Prowitz move to Emmons County. Establish residency, how are we gonna? I mean, that's the question, I'm just saying, how are we gonna establish it? Does he have to have a mailing address here, or is it?
Well, I think if he moves down here, he has to have a mailing address and an apartment or whatever, you know, and live here.
Is there an amount of hours you want me to live here? Like, we're never allowed to leave the county again?
No,
I mean, I'm sorry, I mean,
I'm not trying to be mean, Skylar, that's just, you know.
that,
that's-
I mean, well, I know, I mean, now you're just, I mean,
we just want you to have residency in the county and have a little more skin in the game here. I mean, it's,
I think it's better that I don't have any skin in the game, cause I don't know anybody favors. Like, I don't have anything over anybody, nobody has anything over me. If I tell them no, then they can't be like, well, we went to high school together, so. And I think sometimes that's what happens in this county, just saying how it is, so. I think that not living in this county is a benefit, so.
Is there any more discussion on the motions?
By August 1st, is that in there?
Is that what you wanted in your motion? So by August 1st?
And then what?
and he should either move down, find a place and move down.
So we have a motion and a second to mandate that Skylar Prowitz establish residence in Emmons County by August 1st. Motion by Commissioner Everly, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Any more discussion? Not hearing any, I feel it's appropriate to go to a roll call vote.
Everly,
Aye.
Holm,
Yeah,
Magel,
No.
Materi,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes that Skylar Prowitz is mandated to move, establish residence in Emmons County by August 1st. So you have till August 1st to comply, or there will be punishment, I guess.
But what's gonna be the punishment?
Well, I guess it'd be termination, I would think.
You guys will have to vote on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we'd still probably have to vote on it, but yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of the decision, I guess, you got
If
to
it
August
wasn't
1st.
part of the motion, we would have to vote on it after that.
Well, I would say it'd be appropriate to have a motion, or, vote on terminating the road superintendent, so I think that, because when would be the next meeting? August 6th? So, the deadline will be passed by then, and I guess that'll be a topic for discussion of the next agenda, so.
Well, you guys just wanna get it over, cause I already stated multiple times I was not moving down here, so. Do you wanna give me till the end of the month and consider this a resignation then, or you guys forcing my resignation really is what you're doing, so.
Well,
I don't think you understand the can of worms you're opening up, but that's, you're entitled to your opinion.
we weren't trying to open up a can of worms. That
Oh,
was-
but you did.
That was the original plan that you were supposed to do.
You had 2.5 years to deal with
Well,
it.
you told us multiple times that you had a plan.
But I've also told you multiple times I wasn't moving down here, so, I mean,
I
I'm
guess
gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna comply with the August 1st, so if, like, we can either end this today, or we can end it August 1st, and I can close out some projects and stuff like that, or,
I think it'd be wise to visit it August 1st and see if cooler heads
That's
prevail.
what I would
That's-
say.
That would be my opinion.
That's my opinion, that's the same thing
I think if I'm gonna add anything to this conversation, I think at the beginning, we had no idea what we were getting out of Skylar. Requesting and moving to Emmons County seemed like the idea. I think, in my opinion, how I believe, I was curious whether or not he'd be able to do the job living in another county. I feel like the times he's needed to be here, he's been here. He relies on his guys. Whenever I've ever contacted him after hours or whatever, someone else goes out and flags it, he manages it from wherever he's at. And, I mean, he's stayed overnight when he's had to, whatever, blah, we all know the stories, we've heard them. And, so I don't really have a concern with him running it from Bismarck, just like I have employees that don't live in Hazelton, or even I have employees that live 30 miles away from me. It is what it is. When you want people here, you work with them if you wanna work with them. I know other people disagree with that, but I think he's done an adequate job. I think it's just like anything else, if you really dig into it, there's things that could be better or worse, so. I guess really, the other thing I'll say is, it's no lie, it's no secret that Skylar's been personally attacked by individuals in the county. Whether or not he's created those relationships on his own, or if it's just been preconceived notions because he is who he is, or he holds a position that somebody else wants, or whatever. And honestly, if I was in his position, I wouldn't move down here either after being attacked like that, and take the risk of moving my family down here just to get thrown under the bus in the first wet season and the first ugly winter snowstorm, and now be out of a job and out of a home. So I completely understand why he doesn't want to move down here at this point. I think it's, for the most part, it's been a pretty toxic environment. I think, Skylar could have handled situations better, and I'm not saying he's some innocent bystander who's just been totally untreated fairly, but I think there have been plenty of circumstances where he has been treated unfairly, and I wouldn't take that risk to move either. So honestly, I can just tell you, I don't blame you. Whatever decision you make is your own decision, it's your life, and that's how you need to handle it. I'm willing to keep moving forward and working with the crew that we have and the guys we have and trying to make things better, but again, that is my opinion and mine alone, and the decision this board makes is a decision that I will participate in. It is what it is. So I guess my opinion is we should at least let it go through August and see, because today's been one of those days where everybody's pretty worked up, and I think it's a pretty rash decision. If that hasn't changed in 30 some odd days, then I think handle that when it needs to get handled. That's my opinion. Mine alone. So.
We've all been personally attacked in this job. It's not an easy job. I mean, I'm sure he gets attacked, we all get attacked. I got attacked, bitch that and complain about it all the time too, but you gotta deal with it,
Yeah, but you already live here, and you've already been living here. That's my point is if he was even just a bachelor living somewhere, and it's like, what's the risk? But he has other people that have established lives and things too, and it's a lot to risk coming down into an environment that we could be having this discussion 6 months from now because something else you don't like, and now you're asking him to do something that he's not willing to do, and now he's out of a job 6 months or a year from now. It's just asking a lot, that's all I'm saying. That's just my opinion on that fact, is that those hostilities probably won't go away just because he moves to Emmons County. It'll just shift to another hostility, and with that, he's taking a big risk moving down here, knowing what he knows now. That's all I'm saying. So I think with that, it would be wise to probably just end this topic for now and keep moving on the departmental budgets, which is what we're working on, and we'll address that deadline when it passes. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Good. Thanks, Skylar. Who's next?
Gary.
Yeah, good afternoon. Got several budgets, I think 5 or 6 probably to go over here. 911 is probably the budget that's probably gonna be the most talked about here, so maybe we should save that for last, as far as that goes. With that said, we'll just start with the sheriff's office budget first, for 2025 preliminary budget. I think like Marla said, probably early indicated, through a department head meeting, we discussed cost of living in COLA, requesting 5%, or excuse me, I stand corrected, 4% on that. So those are blank in there. Later on, you guys will decide what that COLA is when you guys make that decision. Because when you fill in that salary, it also affects the benefits, the insurance, some of that other stuff too. So there's multiple things that applies to that. That's why we like the blank. But as you can see through the 2025 budget, preliminary budget, pretty much everything is stagnant. I haven't made any increases with the exception of $5,000 additional for a patrol car replacement, which we try and do every 5 to 6 years. 2017 we have right now is due for replacement next year. So that one is budgeted, went from 55,000 to 60,000 on that. Pretty much, like I said, everything remained stagnant, across the board. Any questions on what you have in front of you there?
So if you're not submitting a preliminary budget for the wage increases, what's your preferred, vehicle? I mean, cause are you just expecting us to do just kind of a percent?
Well, one of the things, one of the other
Per
conversations, we still as a county have not adopted a grade and step status across the board for county employees. So what we decided as department heads is we would put together just a 3-person working committee between myself, Auditor Marla Solhauser, and Director of Social Services, Michelle Mossett, that we would look at that through this summer, going into the fall, to have something ready, hopefully prior to January 2025 or February, so that beginning of the year, we would have established grade and step increases. And we've had this conversation in the past. You know, obviously there were some adjustments made to salaries pretty much across the board countywide, some more than others, to get in line where they needed to be. But we never adopted a grade and step. Part of the beauty of a grade and step is what determines your grade is your responsibilities, your authority, and issues like that. Your step increases basically are for longevity. As you've been 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, maybe you've earned additional certification or training would allow you to be eligible for a step increase. Okay, so it's not meant to be a cost of living, it's based on that. So your earlier conversation with the road department, whether it's your temporary part-time help, full-time help, you know, that's where your step increases come in. Okay, when you open a position, you've got a base salary, base grade, and a base step, but yet you have one applicant with 0 experience and 0 education, 0 certification, they're at the bottom, versus an applicant that has 4 years of experience, certification, maybe has a CDL. You can start them at the same grade level because it's the same grade, but he's at a step 3 or 4. Okay, between currently the draft that we have, there's a 2% increase between steps. From step 1 to step 2 is a 2%. Step 2 to 3 is a 2%. So it's just a 2% across the board, no matter what grade level you're at. Tentatively right now, sheriff is at a grade 11. State's attorney, I believe, is at a grade 12. Not all elected officials are at the same grade. We all have different job descriptions, different responsibilities, things like that. And that's what has to go into that. So that's something that we want to work on this summer or this fall, so that beginning 2025, we can make that proposal to you, the board, to look at, review. We need to tweak it a little bit and accept that and adopt that going forward across the board for everybody. So that's the long answer. The short answer on the salary part of it. So what I'm looking at from my office is not any increases, just the cost of living. And collectively, the department heads thought we'd seek a 4% cost of living. Currently, right now, the cost of living nationwide is about 3.3, 3.4%, but that's with 5 months into the year. So we don't know what that's going to be. Again, your budget, the preliminary budget is just that. It's not finalized till October. Anything else on the sheriff's office budget? Like I said, everything else, all the various line items that I've got are pretty stagnant, remain the same with no increases from 2024. I can go through them individually. The special deputy fund, I did decrease that by 1,500 from 5,000 to 3,500 because basically we don't have those costs. And that basically is a reimbursable account. We use that mainly for special events. We bill out, for example, the quasi-centennial. Okay, that's reimbursable. The quasi-centennial committee is going to reimburse those extra hours and time back to the county. But we run everything through the county for liability, workers' comp issues and issues like that, because they're working for us under color law. So it's more of a reimbursable account than it is anything else. Office supplies, again, $600 are gonna remain at the same. We do supplement that through the jail budget, which is a different budget. Uniforms, $5,000. That stays stagnant. Travel and training stays the same. Organizational dues is the same from 2024. Printing books, periodicals, $800 per year, that stays the same. That's basically if we classified ads, legal advertisement, sheriff sales, things like that, we got to pay for that up front. Mainly that's what that's for. CSI is crime scene investigations, there's $2,500, and again, that stays the same as 2024. That's a fund that we use for, if we have something that needs, that really doesn't fit into another line item. We may have something that either has to go to an out-of-state lab that we have to pay for personally, it's gonna come out of there. It might be used for equipment that we use for latent fingerprints, things like that, it's gonna come out of that budget. So far this year, we haven't used anything out of that budget.
About that contract with the city of Lytton, is that?
That's a different contract, it's not part of this, but we're not gonna redo that contract going into 2025, but we can go through that, but yeah. Public relations, education, again, that's, different things that we use for the parades. We go into the schools and we read to the kids, things like that. It's that kind of materials, it's just public relation related and educational type material. You've got equipment maintenance, kind of speaks for itself, what that is. Some of these we try to use up from our jail budget first, because there's a specific mill levy for the jail. It can't be used for anything else, so anything left over in this budget at the end of the year gets put back into the general fund. Doesn't stay with the sheriff's office, it goes back into the general fund. So we try not to use this to as much as possible. We try to use other funds first and then this secondary. Technology, again, hardware, laptops, things like that, software, issues like that. Teletype is related basically to the teletype, law enforcement teletype system that we are required to have through the federal government, the FBI. There's a fee that we have to pay for it, that's what that is. That stays the same. Got a miscellaneous account, 2,500, pretty much speaks for itself. Capital outlay and equipment is just that. Again, stays stagnant. So as you can see, there's really no increases, just the one decrease in the special deputy fund. And the only other increase would be for the replacement of the patrol vehicle, an additional $5,000. In vehicle maintenance at $25,000, that's fuel, repairs, oil changes, tires, things like that. And again, that's a fund that we use secondary. We try to take that out of our transportation bill out of the jail first. So we try not to use that as much as possible, so. Any questions on that?
Confiscated items, say you confiscate something, what happens to them? Do they get sold or what?
To what?
Confiscated items?
Items are pretty vague. I mean, there's a statute says there's certain ways, like weapons, firearms. They are required to go to public auction, or we have to sell them to a FFL dealer. We cannot keep the money.
Right.
We cannot bid on that equipment. It must go that route.
Where does that money end up then?
In general fund.
It comes back to the county.
Pardon me?
In Emmons County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It stays local. It doesn't go to the state. It stays in the Emmons County General Fund is where that goes.
Okay.
You're saying it doesn't go to the sheriff's office?
Correct. It does
Okay.
not. It's very specific that it does not.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Again, firearms is very specific, but if it comes to vehicles, that's a little bit different, but for the most part, that stuff goes into the general fund. And there's not a lot of it, to be honest. So,
Being lost a fund with the city, does that affect the budget at all?
does that affect what, sir?
The budget at all? Losing the funding with the city?
Not with the sheriff's office, no. I mean, so we can talk about that. If there's any more questions on the sheriff's office budget, we can move to the Lytton contract budget, because there's a separate budget for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, with that, none being said there, on the Lytton police contract that we've had for the last, I believe, 13 years,
What's that on there?
Police contract.
police contract, I think on the budget.
Right in front of county jail, which is right in front of sheriff.
So, in the preliminary, budget for the Lytton contract, even though we're gonna end that contract at the end of this year, okay, I still have a budget for 2025, and talking with Auditor, Marlis Olhauser, I still, if I'm gonna use any of those funds, I still have to have a budget for it, to expend those funds. We do have a balance of, I think, 80,000 in that budget right now. We use that over the years, so when we sold an old patrol car, I think for 10,000 here recently, we took that money and put it in that account. When we sold, that Ranger 4x4 and updated, we put that money in that account. Okay, to use on other equipment down the road, and that's pretty much what we use that budget line item for, is for replacement of equipment and maintenance of equipment. Pretty much that's all we use it for. And so forth. When we had a reimbursement from the state on the siren radio program, we put that money into this account. So what our contract with Lytton has been for the last 5 years, a total price of $40,000 per year, payable to Emmons County, okay? Of that $40,000 payable to Emmons County, $10,000 came to the sheriff's office into this fund. $30,000 went into the general fund. Okay, it didn't go to the individual officers, did not go to me, it just goes into this fund for replacement of equipment and maintenance of equipment is what it went for.
So how come they don't wanna redo that again?
I'm sorry, what?
What was the reason they didn't want to redo that again?
Well, that was kind of a decision by me. It became problematic, with the ordinance issues and everything else. They didn't think they were getting their money's worth. I think they were probably most likely, coming to the fall and maybe want to reduce it again. So I just felt it was in the best interest of my agency, the county, and even the city, that we not renew that contract. They'll have to seek other means to do their enforcement for their city ordinances. Now, we will still provide law enforcement services to the city of Lytton, just like we do everywhere. We have that obligation. But you are going to see less of a presence inside the city limits for patrol time. We're gonna try and dedicate more time out into the county, dealing with county things, you know. You don't need to be, I mean, you can go out to the river, whether it's Cattell Bay, Beaver Bay, and they become little communities in the summer. They really have. And not that there's a lot of problems, but I have people out there asking for more visibility out there also. So that's probably gonna be the biggest thing that Lytton's gonna see. We still respond to property crimes, crimes against people. That will always happen. But you're gonna see less of a presence of patrol in town. And we will not be involved in their enforcement of city ordinances.
Well, how are the people of Linton responding to that? Because I've gotten some negative on that. They said we're paying this and we're not getting it. Is there truth to that statement coming from them?
No, I think it's their expectations. I think some of the people that I don't know what they're getting 50 to 60 hours of patrol time a week in town.
Cause that's what
At a cost of $20 an hour.
that was in the plan, right? I mean, that was so many hours.
Yeah, and over the years, they kept reducing that plan and reducing that plan, and then we locked it in for a 5-year period, and that's coming to an end at the end of this year. So the idea that 40,000 is strictly all about city enforcement is not true.
It's not true.
It's not. It's about visibility. It's about having a minimum of 2 officers living in their community. It's about providing a minimum of 50 hours of patrol time in the community, whether there's something going on or not. Half the time our job is visibility. Just being present sometimes keeps things okay. I think some people have forgot about that. So, and then on the city ordinance thing, it was always the understanding that we will enforce them. But the problem is the enforcement of some of their ordinances concerning junk vehicles and grass and things like that. We're not gonna be doing inspections. That was never part of it. When there's a violation, there's a process in place to issue that ticket, okay? And that's half the issue right there, is those types of ordinances. You know, we're not doing inspections. That was never part of the deal. We'll do the enforcement, okay? And we've done that and will continue to do that. But, my concern, my high priority for any community is crimes against people and crimes against property. Whether somebody's grass is 6 inches long or 8 inches long is pretty low on my priority scales. Okay, it's all the other stuff that I prioritize first. And there's some other issues that I'm not gonna get into, but I think overall, it's just best for both parties that we just part ways on this whole thing. The mayor, the city council has full authority to write a citation for the violation of a city ordinance. They can do that if they want, or they can hire a citizen to be their enforcement officer for those types of grass violations and junk vehicle violations and things like that. And then you've gotta be consistent about it. Not just because your last name is this, we're gonna enforce it, but hey, we're gonna look the other way here and that's okay. That's the hardest part in any of these small communities, it really is. I mean, you guys see that here as a county commission, countywide. It's easier said than done. But I just think it's best we go separate ways on this whole thing. So, on the Lynn contract, I got 26,000 because I was asked to pick a number, what do I think I'll spend out of that fund for 2025? It's kind of a hard thing to do, but I put in basically the same as last year, so. Okay. Moving on to the county jail budget. So, our current rate, we've got contracts with a couple of different county jails for our housing of our inmates. Just kind of refresh you guys' knowledge on where we're at. We have a holding cell at the sheriff's office. It's a grade 4 holding cell. We cannot hold anybody overnight. We can hold somebody there for a maximum of 8 hours. Okay, if they're there more than 3, we have to feed them. If we have somebody in the jail, we still have to check on them every 15 to 30 minutes, okay? We have to document that. We are inspected by the Department of Corrections, the state penitentiary, every year, as every jail or every holding facility is. We got one coming up here in July. There's certain things we have to do to be in compliance. If not, we get wrote up on it and so forth. So that has to be in compliance. For any housing overnight, that's where we contract mainly, primarily with Burley County, Morgan County Detention Center in Bismarck, okay? Well, we also have a contract with Stutsman County. We have one with Mercer County, McLean County. We have one for the North Dakota Youth Center in Mandan for juveniles. We have a contract with Youth Works in Bismarck. Those are specifically for juvenile runaways, unruly children that don't necessarily go into a lockdown facility, where the North Dakota Youth Center is for more violent behavior, where they have to be locked down. Basically a jail for kids. But our current rate for Stutsman County and Burley County is $100 per day per inmate, okay? That went up from 75 to 100 last year. And I don't foresee any raises obviously coming into 2025. Talking to Sheriff Lieben, he expects that to be stagnant too for the next 1 or 2 years. But that's where we're at there. So far this year for the jail, we used about just shy of 21,000 for housing prisoners. Okay, in that particular item. There again, I kept my budget for 2025 stagnant in line with 2024 with no increases. With the exception, I think I had a $300 raise in Lexipol, which is a policy, it's a private company we do business with for jail policy, departmental policies, use of force policies. Pretty much it's used heavily statewide by a lot of different agencies. They have experts online that when federal laws change, that policies change in compliance with it. Same with state law. Okay, that's where that increase came from. But other than that, everything's pretty much stagnant across the board. And once again, because there is a specific mill levy in place for this particular budget, those mills are dedicated for those specific things. They can't be used for other things. So we try to use this up first prior to accessing our sheriff's office budget, which then any leftover funding, which last year, Marlis, correct me wrong, there was very close to $80,000 we gave back, put back into, roughly into the general fund last year from the sheriff's office. So the idea is not because we have it, burn it and use it. We've still got to be good stewards of the people's money, all of us do, okay? And if you're going to have those spenders be able to justify it and so forth. But The idea is not to just simply spend it because you have it in your budget. It's just never been that way, so. But with that being said, any questions on the jail budget? Okay. Next, we can talk about, I think the county coroner one. Kind of self-explanatory there. Again, the budget for 2025 is the same as 2024, no increases. What's that used for? That's, I hold the position of county coroner also, so when those cases that require the coroner to sign the death certificate or do the investigation, and the state sets standards where, what those cases are. You know, homicide, suicide, SIDS deaths, drownings, shootings, even the death inside a nursing home that may result in a fall has to be seen by the county coroner. So if a patient in the Strasburg Care Center was to fall and dies 3 years later from complications that initiated from the fall, I have to be involved in that part. So, and that involves their policies, it involves the state and some other things. But for that, for each of those cases, there's a $300 fee that's paid out of that for there. That's what that amounts to. The individual that we found along Lake Oahe earlier this spring that came down from Bismarck, that was part of that thing there too.
So then you get that money, or how does that?
Yes, for the position, yeah. And it's only on a case-by-case basis. It's not a weekly, a monthly, an annual, it's on a case-by-case basis. And you never know what that's gonna be. You might go 3 months and not have a single case, and then all of a sudden 1 month you're hit with 3 or 4 unattended deaths or something like that, so you just don't know. Yeah. Any questions there on that? Okay. And the last budget, there are actually 2 budgets. I've got the 911 budget and the 911 general budget. They're 2 separate budgets, but basically they're used almost for the same thing, and I can get into that with you here. But I do, with that, I'm gonna give you a financial report for that office. I think you have enough copies, but if you don't, I've got a couple of them here. So I was gonna go over this financial report for the 911 office. It's another hat that I wear as far as the 911 director. I've been the 911 director since 2009. And then Josh is kind of an assistant to me on the GIS mapping part of it that he does there too. But a little history on the 911. So the current 911 fee in Emmons County is $2 per telephone line, whether that's landline phone, cell phone, or voice over internet call. What is that? That is an app on a smartphone where you're able to make calls through the internet, not through a calling plan, not through Verizon or AT&T, but it's an app using voice over internet protocol. So all those services get charged $2 per telephone line, okay? And that's something that the carrier, Verizon, AT&T, Cellular, whoever, collects that on behalf of Emmons County. And that comes to Emmons County, okay? Of that $2 fee, okay, Emmons County is currently maxed out at the most you can collect, and that is $1.50 per telephone line. So most state law allows any jurisdiction to collect. Fargo, Bismarck, Emmons County doesn't make it, $1.50 is the most. On top of that $1.50, you have a 50-cent mandatory siren fee. Now siren, S-I-R-N, stands for State Interoperable Radio Network. This is that new radio system that the state is rolling out statewide for fire, EMS, law enforcement, first responders, public works, anybody that wants to get on board of it. Our current radio system is, 1960s technology. This will take us into the next step, and this has been 15 years in the making so far, but it's just starting to be phased in now. It's going to be phased in over the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years, in regions in the state. There's actually some agencies that are now using it, but basically it's a state-of-the-art communications radio network that most states are using and have been using for the last 10 years or more. Minnesota's got it, South Dakota has it. You know, we're one of the later states to come on board with this new technology that's been around for at least a decade or more. So that explains the $2 fee that we got, right? It's $1.50 local, and 50-cent siren goes towards the maintenance of that radio program, and that's 50 cents added on top of that for Pro 2. And that 50 cents goes to the state of North Dakota. We maintain the $1.50. So on that document I've got here, so we've got, now this is a 5-month average. This report is based on a 5-month average, but it gives you a good view or window to look at as far as basically how this looks for the entire year. So Bet Communications, right now, we have a 5-month average of 1,061 telephone lines in Emmons County. On the wireless and the VoIP side of it, we have 2,043, for a total average of 3,104 telephone lines. Now, for every one of those lines, we collect $2, or they collect it on our behalf, send it to us. That gives us a monthly revenue, $6,208. That's what we take in on the 911 fee. Now below that, you're going to get into the monthly expenditures to provide that 911 service to the Emmons County residents. Our current fee that we pay North Dakota State Radio is $1.39 per telephone line. Okay, that comes out of that $1.50 we collect. Okay, that comes to $4,314 per month that we pay State Radio. Now, State Radio provides PSAP services. PSAP is Public Service Answering Point. It's a dispatch center for short, okay, to 25 to 26 counties statewide. There's 53 counties in the state of North Dakota, 25, actually 26 with McKenzie County rely on State Radio to take their 911 calls and do their radio traffic for their ambulance, their fire departments, and law enforcement. You dial 911 in Emmons County, it goes to State Radio.
What did you mean by including McKenzie County?
Well, McKenzie County is not part of the original 25 counties. The 25 smaller rural counties, we don't have our own dispatch center.
Okay.
It's not cost effective. It's very, very expensive. McKenzie County, again, it's kind of oil country, you know, yeah, oil country, right? Their biggest problem is their dispatch center can't handle their volume calls. So all 911 calls in McKenzie County go to State Radio, and their local dispatch center handles only their non-emergency local radio and telephone traffic. Okay, so they're part of this system that us 25 are too. Now, McKenzie County has previously talked about building a new PSAP center, hiring more staff, and taking that on, but talking to Sheriff Johansson, they're not ready to do that. And quite frankly, I think they'd rather pay State Radio to do it than make that investment, because it's hard to even fill the employees they have right now under PSAP center. They can't keep fully staffed already. So doubling that, disagree with more problems. So I think they're happy right now, just keep paying it. But maybe someday they will jump off and have their own thing. But now, legislators 8 years ago roughly mandated that State Radio must charge these 25 counties, including us, our fair share of providing that service. That is, legislators said State Radio has to find out what is their actual expense to provide that service to Emmons County. Now, they do it for the Highway Patrol, they do it for DOT and other state entities, but they divide that out from these 25 counties, and then they take that 25 county and divide it out into the individual counties. How many calls for service? How many telephone calls? How many 911 calls? And then we got our CAD system. CAD, CAD, computer-aided dispatch. That's the computers we have on our laptop. That is tied to the dispatch center and the 911 calls and everything else. The mapping system, calls for service, all that comes up in that laptop nowadays. So they're easily able to track those calls for service. So every time there's a 911 hang-up call, it's a mark against us. Every time we get a call to go take care of something, it's a call for service. And they add all that up along with the other counties look at their operating expenditures to run state radio, it's like $4 or $5 million, divide that out into percentages, and that's how they come up with that fee of $1.39 per telephone line.
And that happens easily. I'm guilty of that.
Right.
Just hitting the button on the side.
Well, it happens all the time. I would say, Emmons County, we get probably close to 6 or 8 a day.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Okay.
Some require, protocol is the dispatcher will try to call the number back.
Okay.
Just if no problems, no emergency, we're good, thank you.
Yep.
Sometimes when there's no response, then we have to follow up with either trying to contact that person, go find that person, make sure there isn't an issue going on, just to verify and confirm. So, but it is a call for service that goes against us on this whole thing.
Okay.
And they break it down to individual counties.
So is there ever a time when the consumer's gonna have to pay a little more, so we don't?
Well, that's where we're getting.
That's where we're going.
And so there is a memorandum of understanding, right here, that was sent to myself and Marlis, the auditor. So state radio, or the state of North Dakota, operates on a biennium, budget. They don't do one every year, but every other year. And that's coming up. And their budget cycle starts July 1st to June 30th. Unlike ours is from January 1st and so forth. So that being said, they've sent out letters last week indicating that due to increased costs on their side, a lot of it's IT stuff, cybersecurity things and things like that, they're looking at a 20-cent per telephone line increase going into the middle of next year, beginning the middle of next year, from $1.39 to $1.59 per telephone line.
So is that just gonna help them, or is it gonna help us too?
Well, I don't know that it helps anybody. They're just trying, by law, they have to recover their cost to provide the service. And all 25 counties will be charged the same amount of money. If you got more telephone lines, you pay more. More population, more telephone lines, you pay more. You got less telephone lines, you pay less. It's all it is.
Because it's costing us $1,700 a month.
Right. So this report is based on the current rate of $1.39, and you've got those individual monthly expenditures, right? We pay $4,314 to state radio, then you've got the siren project, that's the 50 cent that we collect, and that's part of the whole maintenance part of that, that's at $1,552 a month. And then you've got the county employee salary and benefits broke down to $989 a month. North Dakota Association of Counties Next Generation 911. That is a mandatory fee by the state of North Dakota to implement Next Generation 911. It's a technical thing and so forth. We are one of the first states in the nation to get all the cell carriers in the state on board with that, and we're far ahead of a lot of states, most states in the union right now on the Next Generation 911. And that's paid for the 10% of the first dollar collected goes to the Association of Counties because they have a team of people that do that. Jason Horner and some others, that's all they do. Then you have the telephone company administration fee of 5%. What that is state legislators, again, as we all know, when you go through the budget cycle, the state legislates to the local jurisdictions maximums and minimums and mandatories, right, when it comes to taxation and so forth. A lot of that is out of our hands. That 5% collection back to Beck Communications, Verizon, and Cellular is something that they're allowed to gather by state law. And that 5%, and that is on the first dollar collected, or basically if that, the $2 is 10 cents a line of that $2 goes in, and it's kind of broke down. The 911 sign and post replacements and maintenance, I average out about $208 a month. That's something the county road department does. If a 911 sign gets knocked down, has to be replaced, it's part of that, okay? And again, that's a month. The Everbridge reverse 911, that's a monthly fee of about $75 a month. That's basically gives us the ability in severe weather or some other dangerous situation, we can do a call out alert. Yeah, and so forth to do that. 911 trunking fees, that's $900 a year, $225 a quarter, or $75 a month that we have to pay. That's part of the 911 trunking system out of Kidder County. It's where we share telephone lines in the Braddock, Kennington area that are up in Kidder County and so forth. That's all part of that, it's required. Verizon Wireless cell phone and data tap, that's where I take, as a director, take my cell phone and my laptop data out of there okay, because we had to have a data plan for the laptops, obviously wireless connectivity and the cell phone. The 911 association dues, that's just the annual fee to be part of that organization. There's a statewide, just like there is for the sheriffs and deputies, or the county commissioners, or the auditors, or the state's attorney. You have all these different associations, $100 a year to belong to that association, attend those meetings and that training. And then office supplies and travel, we don't spend anything out of this, and then we take it out of the sheriff's office. I gotta go somewhere that's 911, I just take it out of the sheriff's office budget as far as that goes. So, our monthly revenue is $6,208, and our monthly expenditures, $7,925.64, for a negative $17,1764 per month. So 911, the collection of the fee is not self-sustaining, and it hasn't been since 2020, okay? And in most jurisdictions, if not all, it's not self-sustaining. Fargo, they don't run their PSAP and their system off their collection of fees, it can't, it's just too expensive. Bismarck doesn't, there's no jurisdiction that I'm aware of that is, where it's self-sustaining, it just isn't. So, but it is a service to the citizens that is not required, but I would hate to think going back of not having that. 911 is a universal number, whether you're traveling through somewhere and you don't know the local sheriff's office number, or you need an ambulance, or you need a fire, what do you call? 911, right? And then what I've done down below that is I've broken down that $2 fee by the penny on where that goes, and you can see that. So right now, for every telephone line in Emmons County, we collect $2, but it's costing us $2.60 to provide that fee. And in July of next year, of 2025, that goes up an additional 20 cents. So it'll cost us $2.80 next year to provide that same service. Okay. Now, we've had no increases on the local side of 911. The salaries, the wages, any of that, none of that has changed since 2019. It's been stagnant since 2019. So on the local side, we're not increasing anything. All our increases over the years have been on the state side, telephone company side, these other mandates that we have to pay. And again, that's to provide that service. So, any questions on that report, gentlemen? So it just kind of tells you where we're at. And in the fall of 2022, we did increase our 911 fee to the maximum of $1.50, and that had to be put to a vote of the citizens, and it did pass by 55%. So we're maxed out, as if most jurisdictions in the state are maxed out at $1.50. It's not a self-sustaining service. And that's where you get into now the 911 general budget, okay? So if your 911 budget is always in the red to provide that service, you have to supplement it, and that's where the money from the general fund comes in, and to supplement that so that you're running in the black. And your 911 general budget basically includes the salaries, the benefits, and then you've got a $35,000 increase to make sure that that budget stays in the black. And that $35,000 increase for those fees includes, because next year in 2025, I had to do half the year at $1.39 paid to state radio. Come July, it goes to $1.59. So that includes about a $6,000 to $7,000 increase over the next 12 months to provide the same service. Now, I know that I've been talking to some of the other 911 directors in other 25 counties. I just talked to Lemoore County here the other day, Kimberly, and we're gonna have a meeting and to try and see what we can do going with this next legislative session. If we need to try and lobby legislators to decrease some of these required fees and so forth, because there's no way right now we have to pay it, it's required by law. So one of the examples is like the 5% that goes to the telco companies. When you talk to the other directors across the state of North Dakota, not all telephone companies charge the local jurisdiction 5%. Some over in Dickey County don't charge it. Okay, Bet Communication charges us 5%, Verizon charges 5%, AT&T charges 5%. They don't have to, but they can. So guess what? Most do. So the idea is to try and get that 5% reduced, but that's got to be done through legislation, obviously. And I know that previously, a couple of months back, we looked at trying to I recommended it, Auditor Marlis Olhauser recommended having the associated counties collect that fee for us. We're the only county in the state of North Dakota that's not having the association county do that on our behalf. There's no cost for it, zero. But one of the things they first did was they found money for us, because the calculation rate that you have to do wasn't being done maybe like where it should. It wasn't a lot of money, but it did make a difference. And what you have statewide is every county was doing something a little bit differently. What this has done is now using them as one central point to collect the 911 fee on behalf of the local jurisdictions, is they take it, they collect it, they send it to the state, the siren stuff, then they send the local jurisdiction their money electronically. Along with that electronic transmission, you get a monthly report, breakdown of where all this money coming in, who it's coming from, the number of telephone lines, and it's free of charge. And one of the things that the Association County wants to do is they want to lobby legislators at next session to try and get that 5% reduced. Now, there's no cost for this, and even if you opt in, you can opt out tomorrow. You're not tied in, it's not a contract and nothing, they're just doing it. Now, what they want to do is possibly keep a percentage of that 5%. Talking to Jason, what they're proposing is possibly looking at keeping 0.5%. And this is statewide, because they have employees that do nothing but this. They dedicate one for sure, if not two employees, to do this, provide this service. And with that remaining, that would go back to the county, okay? So if they're able to get legislators convinced to reduce that 5% to 3%, that's 2% back in our county. Okay, this is not a money-making operation, so I really think we need to look at how much, anything is something. You know, rather than going in the red every month, if you can get a certain percentage of that back, why not? And if the association county keeps 0.5% of that or something for that service, I think that's money well spent. I just think we're really missing out on the fact that we're not doing it. I've talked to other counties, they're very happy with the service. And again, you're not locked in. If you join in August and you want out in September, you're out. It's that simple.
No penalties, no nothing.
No, there's not. So I would strongly suggest or recommend the county relook at that. You know, I know, how much time do you guys spend doing that, Marlis? 2-3 hours?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, again, but that's 2-3 hours that takes you away from other duties you could be doing. And it's not real time consuming, but the biggest problem is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm speaking out of place here, I mean, again, it's figuring out those telephone lines and those percentages and making sure that everybody's coming. So when I did this audit, I found out that one of our cell companies are only paying once a year. They're supposed to be paying once a month. I saw 1,000 telephone lines drop off, like, where'd they go? How come we didn't collect that fee?
But we don't know how many lines or how many they have every month.
Right, I mean, well, we do, but one of the
Like for me,
companies.
when that income comes in and stuff, I wouldn't know.
No, you get a check, but again, that's a nice thing that, when the Associated County electronically transfer that money to Emmons County, you get a digital report. It's all broke down, boom, 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 here it is. And if there is a discrepancy or something, they look at it.
Yeah.
They research it, they look at it. You're not tied up, like, where is this at? Because I would beat my head, like, where these 1,000 lines go? Well, it took me a couple hours to figure out that only one cell company was doing it once a year. They should be doing it every year, so.
Yeah.
So why don't they charge the consumer a little bit more though, to cover these fees?
What if they what?
The consumer, the one that, you know, us people, why don't they charge us more rather than the county? You know, if we're losing money every month, why can't, you know?
Well, state law dictates that the most, any jurisdiction in North Dakota can charge us $1.50.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's
the
it.
state law, are they ever gonna change that? Are they ever gonna change state law for that?
There's no talk about raising that minimum fee, but I mean, that may become part of a conversation, but I don't know that people have a stomach for adding more fees onto their telephone lines, I don't know.
Yeah, but the county shouldn't, the counties, because we're not the only county that's probably losing money at this.
Oh, I think every county, it's not a self-sustaining operation. Fargo, you know, how many lines they got? They're not, they have to pay 20-some dispatchers, a building, radio equipment, there's no way that it's self-sustaining. They have to supplement it through their general budget too. I think everybody is that I'm aware of, that I've talked to. But it is getting more and more expensive every year, so something has to change a little bit here. But that all has to go through legislators. We've maxed out the most that can be levied against a phone line for 911 purposes. 150 plus the 50 siren is the most anybody can collect. So that's kind of where we are on the 911 budget. Any questions on that? And any clarification, I guess, or? Okay. I think that's all I really have. Other than, I do have a document for Commissioner Magrum to look at, review, and sign. This is the MOI or MOU for state radio going in. Did you do this? I've got it pre-filled out. I can give it, and this basically goes, this is the memorandum of agreement between state radio and Emmons County for providing those services. It's what's expected of us, what's expected of them, taking these calls, and indicating that the fee is gonna go to $1.59 effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2027. Okay, that's what this is.
That was that email from Darren Anderson or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, that's what it is. So I've got it pre-filled out, look at it, review it over. Sean, give that to him here. Other than that, that's all I have on budgetary issues. Any questions for me from the sheriff's office, the jail, any of the budgets we just went over here, guys? Okay, the only other thing I can touch base with you on, and we don't have to do it here, we can do it another time, is I was gonna bring you guys up to speed on the construction of the auditorium. Commissioner Holland was there at the meeting we had, an updated meeting with Comstock, we did a walkthrough and stuff, and I've got some emails, so I guess, you wanna talk about this after you get your budgets and stuff, or now, or?
Might as well just do it now, I guess, when you're here.
So, we do have a construction manager on board, Winston Hefert with Comstock Construction. And the guys in the basement, you know, Winston is over in Fergus Falls now. I just talked to him twice today, a couple emails. But they're coming along on schedule, actually maybe a little ahead of schedule. Let's hope it continues. Maybe they can wrap that whole thing up sometime in August is the idea. Couple of things that have come up that caught our eye, and we're having conversations right now. So when we did this walkthrough initially, before we hired Comstock, they did the walkthrough. They had employees here, they had an engineer here. Jason was here, Jalen, the secretary, and she was taking notes. We did the walkthrough. Initially, when we got the first set of blueprints, we noticed that on the stage area down on the auditorium, we took the back wall, put a new back wall up there, and we put storage rooms, 2 individual storage rooms on the back side of the stage, okay? One for my office, one for the extension office, for the 4-H stuff. And that wasn't there. And we brought that to their attention. Oh, they missed that. Somewhere in their notes, they kind of missed it. Okay, they put that back in. Then we had a meeting here locally with the commissioners where we had to cut a few things from our wish list in order to come in on budget, right? Right now, we've got roughly approximately $750,000 dedicated to this renovation. Now that renovation is not only the auditorium, but it also includes a new fire alarm system for the building, which is inoperable, hasn't worked for a while. We're gonna update some of the electrical systems in the auditorium, which are in dire need of an update. The electrical panel on the stage is actually a fire hazard. And it's gonna update some of the exterior of the courthouse, new doors, some new exterior doors. The landings on the main entrance to the courthouse, if you stop and look at those, pull that rubber mat back, it is horrible. It's coming apart. It's falling over. That freeze-thaw cycle has really raised havoc with that stone. And then same thing with the entrance over on the south side of the auditorium.
This one here, what are they gonna do, chip that top piece?
They've got a masonry guy coming in with, and they believe they found a quarry with some rock that's got, or some, the stone's gonna match that pretty good. And then they're gonna tear that apart, put it all back together.
Okay.
Cause it's, even the sidewalls are separating. Over the year, the moisture and the ice have just really wreaked havoc. So that's what they're gonna be doing there. They demolition both bathrooms in the basement, which included tearing out concrete walls, cutting in the floors, new everything else. The new doors, exterior doors have been put in. The auditorium, the old ceiling has been removed. And, yeah, the ceiling has been removed.
Looks
The
pretty cool
framework,
there though.
what's that?
Looks pretty cool though, that.
It does, yeah, and I would highly recommend, you know, you guys walk through there, we can, if you get a chance,
It
Ken's
looks
down there,
pretty
find out,
cool,
kinda walk you through there, you can see what they're doing.
I was surprised in the bathrooms that they only put one up right in your room there. But
Well,
they said they
it's
can't.
a room issue, you know, there's no room, you gotta have a vanity and then urinal and then a stall for the toilet, and there's just no room for.
I was not up to code, them toilets were way too close, there was nothing,
Yeah,
there was no room.
you were friendly with the guy.
You were
next to you.
probably with the guy.
Shoulder to shoulder would be the proper term, yeah.
So, like even in the women's bathroom, so they went from one toilet to one, or from two to one. But they'll be nice when they're done. New ceilings and lights and things. But one of the things in this process we found later on that the lead contractor in the basement, Kent, brought to our attention, myself and Craig, was that I talked about earlier how the storage rooms weren't initially in the blueprints right on the stage. And the Comstock said, maybe that's an oversight, they got lost in their notes and shuffled. And they put it back in. Well, then later on, as the demo started, we had to demo the ceiling and the stage. Okay, it's all been demolitioned out. And our initial thing was, okay, yeah, we're gonna replace that with a drop ceiling, similar to what's out in the auditorium and the lighting and everything else. And we're gonna redo the floors. There was a staircase on the back side of the stage that went down into a closet area and came up by the women's bathroom. Okay, we wanted that covered up, sealed up, it was never used anyway. And then replace that with that maple flooring to match the rest of the stage. On that stage, there's maple, like 1.5 inch maple flooring in there.
Are
And
they
then,
gonna resurface that next?
well, that's, yeah, and then on the front of the stage, there was always this old plywood, probably 12, 16 inches wide, ran the length of the stage. Nobody knew what was under that. Well, we tore that off and found out that that's where the old lighting system for the stage was back in the day. Bunch of bulbs that reflected back onto the stage in the day. Because you remember this was built back in 1932. So that was tore out, re-put in, and then that maple flooring is gonna match what's up there, right? Okay. Well, somewhere in this whole conversation, they left out the fact that that floor's gotta get sanded and refinished, right? And in addition to that, it was the bathrooms. So when we did the walkthrough in the bathrooms, we brought them up to the main floor of the courthouse, took them into the bathrooms, took pictures, and we want them similarly done. That 4-inch tile on all 4 walls around, we're gonna have new flooring in and all this stuff's fine. We got the contract and we got the blueprints, and the subcontractor, Fargo, for the tile on the walls, only bid out the 2 short walls, not the 2 long walls in the bathroom. And again, the contractor says, wait a minute, there's something missing here. What are you talking about? Long story short, I've met with Comstocks and our construction manager, Winston, and he agrees. There's been a breakdown of communication within Comstock. When this got passed around, it went from one guy to the next guy to the next guy to the next guy before Winston finally ended up with it, right? Kind of the hot potato scenario here. And my conversation with Winston was, yes, there was a communication breakdown with Comstocks. That stuff somehow got left out between the sanding of the floor and refinishing the stage, the false ceiling in the stage area, and the bathroom. So he emailed me.
Even the baseboard area, when I was down this, what about the
Yeah,
baseboard?
so well, they were gonna remove the baseboard on the stage, it's like a 6-inch wooden baseboard, and as soon as Kent pulled it back, all the plaster and everything came with it, he left. We're better off leaving that there. So I think I had Mike Wickenhard, the local contractor, come down and match that baseboard. He basically routed the baseboard that fit.
Yep.
So, and it's like 14 feet of it, but it looks really good. He did a really good job on that. Because it was just gonna cause more problems if we took it off, and more, it is problematic. But since my conversation with Winston, our manager, with this overall bid process for Comstock, there's a 3% contingency fund to cover overages, underages, and stuff like that, which is about $18,000. So the ceiling is gonna get done, and the bathrooms are gonna get done. Now, the subcontractor did the bathroom, we had to twist his arm a little bit to come down on his price, but he's got, cause his bid was only for 2 walls in each bathroom, 2 short walls. The two, yeah, because they're rectangular shaped rooms, they're not, yeah, where the vanity is and where the toilet is, that included tile, but the longer walls did not. I think it goes up 4 feet with tile, much like the bathrooms on the main floor here. So he come down and did that, so right now it looks like we've got those issues covered, with the exception of the floor on the stage being resanded and stained and sealed. Because the contractor, the subcontractor on that particular thing, his bid included putting the maple down in those 2 areas, staining and finishing. Well, it doesn't make any sense why anybody would do that and not refinish the main floor, which is in tough shape. And Comstock has admitted to me this morning, it was a breakdown in their office in the communication that they should have caught. And I said, okay, he's talking to his supervisors and hopefully we get this fixed. So I told him, I said, if not, I'm going to push back. Because this is an oversight by you guys, not by us. I said, I'm not a contractor, I don't read blueprints for a living. And this was part of their office, and he admits it was a breakdown on their side. As this project got passed around before he finally ended up with it, some of those notes, and even the engineer was here, he says, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Why would we do that and not do that whole floor? So there's an acknowledgement there, we just have to see how that works out, so.
What about in the back going out to the north, where you got that major, not major, but there's a leak coming down and raising havoc?
There was some water damage, we're not sure how long that's been there or what was it at, but that's all gonna be taped and textured and sealed, and then when Craig has Twin City Roofing come to do that, I mean, that'll all be looked at, obviously, and so forth, but yeah. So hopefully going forward, we don't run into any major issues, but obviously, you know, if there's electrical, plumbing. The other issue is the ADA handicap ramp on door number 2, which is by social services. That's something that you guys approved to go forward with. So the landing as you come out of the doorway on the courthouse will remain, the landing. The slope slanting part is gonna be demoed and tore out of there.
Okay.
And instead of like cattle corral paths, you know, around, it's gonna be a straight shot out to the curb, basically the new ramp, okay?
So you can slide, you go right up on the pickup, the back of the pickup, in other words.
Yeah, right? So that's part of that too, and I think Comstock is gonna do the concrete work on that, because they couldn't find a sub-bidder contractor to do that.
Are they gonna do anything in the back with the drain spouts, your water spouts, your downspouts?
To my knowledge, no.
No?
No.
Don't you get water in that basement with a heavy rain coming off them roof lines?
It's something Craig could better answer.
There's only just 2 spots. One of them is where we have that doorway that's coming in, that we're gonna be filling up, that's right next to the handicap ramp. And there's one spot where there's a crack in the wall. That's, you gotta have a good 2-3 inch rain before that's even gonna happen within an hour. So it's minimal as that moment right now.
I just noticed.
Yeah, and one of the other issues we had that we got resolved this morning, so Prairie Heating and Air, who got the bid on the HVAC system, they poured a concrete pad there. It's gonna be a natural gas on the backside of the building. So the original bid that they had called for them to surface mount the gas line along the building. A lot of curves, and you get into corners, little corners, very labor intensive to do that. I talked with Ryan, and Ryan suggested to trench it in from the main gas line on the back of the courthouse underground to where the new HVAC system pad's gonna be at, right? Aesthetically, it's much better. You're not gonna have that surface mount line on the side of the courthouse. It's very labor intensive to do that at a cheaper price. We looked at that yesterday, and initially they thought they'd have to take some concrete out by that doorway that goes into the kitchen of the auditorium. There's a pad there. It's not in very good shape. It does need to be replaced somewhere down the road, because it kind of sloped towards the building and it's cracked. But to avoid that for now, I think we can tie into that gas line that feeds that backup generator. It's like a 2-inch line, and not even touch the concrete. And then just come around the corner of the courthouse underground to that pad. It's a lot cheaper, and it's gonna save some money. Now, Prairie Heating also said that they could remove that vent in the auditorium. In the middle of the roof of the auditorium is that old vent. It was the only ventilation vent there. That wasn't in part of the whole demo thing initially. But with the cost savings of trenching that gas line in, and everything else, Prairie Heating can do that, and still come out below bid on that whole thing. They'll demo that whole thing out of there. And then, they have to have a roofer come in on top and then seal that off on the roof, obviously. And they don't know what that's gonna cost, but right now, we're good on all that.
How many guys they have here, cops?
Just
2 young guys?
2 young guys and a supervisor. I'd hate to think how many trips those young guys made up them steps with buckets of concrete.
But
and
I
everything
see
else.
these 2 young kids, I mean, they're young.
Right, yeah, they're like 20.
Yeah.
They're young,
Very young.
lots of energy, lots of energy. I asked him the other day how many trips he made, he really didn't know, but it's a lot, it's a lot. Especially when you hold that insulation above that old ceiling tile was bats of insulation, it was like, gosh, you had the R32 or something, I mean, hundreds of them. I don't know how many trips they made out that door with that stuff. So, I mean, yeah, definitely take a walk through it, just kind of see how the progress is. Now, this whole project, you know, is not everything that was on our list. We had to cut back to stay within budgetary demands, obviously, but that's something that, the rest of the stuff, like in the kitchen, needs some updates. That's something that can be done next year, the year after, when money becomes available, and we can, you know, budget that in as through the courthouse and just little projects and, you know,
Is that
really.
a kitchen?
But the major stuff, that's what we're trying to get done here. Now, the other issue with the handicap ramp I was talking about earlier, so the original bid on that was to have, it's gotta have a handrail on it, right? The original bid was to use a galvanized pipe and then paint that pipe, much like what's out there today, but it's a maintenance nightmare and it's a rusting issue. So what we're looking at is possibly going stainless steel. So the current contractor, American Steel, doesn't handle stainless steel or work with stainless steel. So we reached out to a local contractor, welder, who does that. And he's gonna stop by today, tomorrow, take a look at it, we'll give him the blueprints on it, he's gonna shoot us a price on what that would cost to use stainless steel. I think we'd be money ahead in the long run.
You know who else you should reach out to? The Hutterite colonies.
Oh,
Major work with stainless steel.
Well, we're gonna try and do this, again, where possible, the idea was to try and keep it local if we can.
Right.
And this is a local guy that he's done handrails, stainless steel, does good work, and he's gonna stop and look at the programs, choose a price. It is more expensive for the material, but it's maintenance free. If you looked at the ones at City Hall around the Army tank at this thing, he did those. You know, Kent downstairs, the contractors, I'll help them on the thing, cause they'll bore that and, you know, they do what they gotta do to get that.
Well, the kitchen in the basement, a lot of the employees use that kitchen for lunch to go down.
Well, I mean, between the 4-H programs, I mean, that's used by anybody that has activities downstairs, whether they serve coffee, we put stuff in the fridge, or you have 4-H activities down there all the time. And those, like, liars who do cooking, catering, you know, it really needs an update. The ventilation system is bad, but again, the money wasn't there this time around, something we can look at a year or two down the road, eventually get that stuff updated, but the major stuff.
Legion has Memorial Day, they have,
Right.
is it veterans?
And I think what you'll find is, once this project is done, that auditorium is gonna be a lot more user
Well,
friendly.
yeah, that's what I.
It's gonna be friendly.
It acoustically, will
Right
be
now,
so much
nobody
better.
wants to use it, but after.
Was that building built during the WPA days,
1932,
right?
yeah.
And the gym in Linton? And was this the
I'm not
first
sure.
gymnasium in Linton?
That I don't know, I don't know.
Here, you should know that, no, just kidding.
Could have been the same, and that's the gym up there. Where they are club, that was the gym too.
Yeah, that
I
was.
think that was the first gym.
That might have been, I don't know, it's hard to
I
say.
think this was the first one of the WPA days.
So with that, I guess the only thing I'm looking for is, and it doesn't have to be done today, but I'm still looking for another email from Winston, our contract manager, to these updates concerning, change proposal number 3, that is the trenching of the gas line versus surface mounting it for Prairie Heating and Air. It reduces our cost, to me it's a win-win. In addition, they're gonna remove that vent system, that's a monster in the top of that thing here. And we're still under budget for that thing, so that's that proposal for that for Prairie Heating. The next one is the proposal number 1, which is to make sure that the ceiling in the stage area gets done, and the bathroom tiles have tile on all 4 walls. Total cost for those 2 projects right now are $12,287, but that'll come out of that contingency fund that's already built into there, so there's no extra funds. Our contract says this is the most we will spend we can spend less, but we won't spend any more than this. And this update is part of that, it's part of that contingency fund, so. Any questions, I guess, on that?
Well, for the sake of time, I should say we should probably move on, guys.
Yeah. So, okay?
Thanks for the update, Gary.
Thanks.
I mean, with that, the only thing I would ask is, if you want to look, you can look at this, but he's gotta send me some new documents yet, but that may not be till tomorrow.
Okay.
And Commissioner Magrum then could sign in on behalf of the board if you wanna go ahead and do that.
Right, gosh.
Yeah.
Look at that, and that's all I have, I guess, if you don't have anything for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
how are
you.
your two new sheriffs working out for your deputies?
Good.